Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto becomes completely master of chakra control and different techniques part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Konoha. I didn't know a thing. Yes, I knew the plot. Yes, I knew chakra and how it worked, at least how Kishimoto told us it worked. The result of spiritual physical / yin-yang energies that so happened to be a weaponized bastardization of Indra Otsutsuki's teachings. The 5 elements. The 12 hand seals. The 3 divisions of jutsu. The ranks. The bastards waiting at the end of the story. I knew a lot about the basic lore, so that was a base I could start off of. The problem? Yakushi Minato? Chunin Hanahagain checked. I stood, reluctantly, scratching my spiky mop of strawberry blonde hair, charcoal gray eyes, and not an iota of anything in this body belonged to me, staring down at the teacher. Here, Hagain-sensei. She nodded, checking me off on her clipboard, and set it aside. Good. That's all of us then. Welcome to your 4th and final year. I didn't know how to use any of that shit. Not a one. I literally woke up the day before. The body I got shuffled to by whatever asshole of a ROB was out there didn't even have the decency to leave behind memories or skills, only the mental map of what Minato Yakushi had explored of Konoha, and thus his home. Naruto wasn't the only orphaned kid to live in an apartment, apparently, the markets, and the academy, and by proxy, the Hokage Tower. The body was trained, somewhat, for an 11-year-old, but the mind had a long way to go. And to be fair, I was just a driver in my past life. I was given a car and told to take it places. I wasn't a combatant. I could think a little bit like one and learn and analyze fights, but I'd never been put through that kind of training where I could have an intricate understanding of what it was to fight, whether for the sake of sport or the sake of survival. I did not know a thing, and I was blatantly fucked. At least I knew the language and knew how to speak and write it, and knew some faces and names, so I wasn't completely hung out to dry. I woke up sometime in the evening after the original owner conked out of nowhere, and had a heart attack when I saw the orange sky illuminating a good chunk of the Hokage monument. I spent the entire night filing through the boy's apartment in a panic, taking in his items, his books, notes, history, somehow understanding the language. There was so much information to absorb that it honestly caused me a bit of a headache. According to several painful tests, not limited to pinching, cutting myself, kicking a wall, and others, I wasn't dreaming. The depth of how fucked I was, well, it was much less akin to the time I nearly drowned back when I was a kid, and more like suddenly waking up in the middle of the Marianas Trench with only 2 minutes of oxygen left. Because I knew nothing, and I had a year probably less to ape what had to be, 4 years of ninja knowledge and skills and make them my own. No, I was doubtlessly and indubitably fucked. This year, Hannah continued, with a quiet, commanding intensity that reminded me of Snape, the focus will be on putting together everything you have learned over the past 3 years. We will work on your taijutsu, your knowledge, and your ninjutsu. The majority of your time and effort this year will focus on revisions, and every month there will be an aptitude test to ensure you remain at the standard we expect of all of you. Work hard, and at the end of the year, you will become new genin of Konoha. She quieted, letting her words sink in. Fail, and you will not be. You will not like the consequences. First, we revised the history of the Leaf Village. I made to take notes, but Hana-sensei called me out. Yakushi, Hyuga, she called. Pencils down. You do not need them. Niji, and wasn't that exciting? And I put them down. She continued, going over the basics, quizzing us relentlessly. The founding. The alliance of Daimyo Katsura Madoka and the Senju and Uchiha clans, the tributary of clans, the first to ally with the founding clans to the end of ultimately forming the Leaf Village and the Konoha network, and appointing Hashirama Senju as the first Hokage and Madara Uchiha as his advisor. Her questions were leading and demanding, randomly picking each student to answer a question, and then questions, incisive, expectant, ruthless. Tenten Higurashi did not know why Madara Uchiha died, natural death, which was a fat fucking lie, but one spoken so naturally that I'd not have known if I wasn't a living out of context problem, and thank God she hadn't asked me that. And Sakuya Ju did not know the name of Hashirama's wife. They got detention. I dreaded my turn. Kishi had never gone all that deep into the history of the village or the elemental nations, and I was learning a lot more than I bargained for. Yakushi. She finally called me out. The other disciples of Tobirama Senju. Hiruzen Sarutobi. An easy question to start with, but I remained on my toes. Danzo Shimura, Koharu Udatain, and Hamura Mitokado. Who are they today? She pressed. The current advisors of the 3rd Hokage. Ranks before current occupation? Jounin. Udatain was a Tokubetsu Jounin. What? The age of Hiruzen Sarutobi when he became the disciple of Tobirama Senju? Shit, 12 I guessed. Close. 13. Oh well, then I'm glad the lore's that predictable. Sheesh, she glared at me. Who appointed Hiruzen Sarutobi as the Hokage? Tobirama Senju. And, the Fire Daimyo, Jounin commander, and ANBU representative of the time. The age of Hiruzen Sarutobi when he became Hokage? Fyuk. 21? Are you asking me or telling me? 21. 24. If I ever find a way past this, I will strangle you with your own intestines and feed you your spleen. Kishimoto, you will join Higurashi and Ju after school. Yes, ma'am. The class snickered at me, and I forced myself to stand fast against any embarrassment or anger I irrationally felt. My failures were not unexpected. A sharp thwop cut through the noise like a bullet through a body, and everyone suddenly remembered who they were in class with. Hana put down her meter rule. When you become a ninja, Hana lectured, you will be expected to keep every single detail you come across in your head. No matter how small, you will find that anything can be the vital piece to solving a problem you can encounter in a mission. A sighting in a town. An injury in the past. The color of a person's hair. Their age. Their blood type. The number of people with them. The number of people not with them. You must remember anything and everything. In addition, exercising your mind exercises your spiritual energy, which boosts the potency and depth of your chakra reserves. Do not slip up. Do not fall behind. Hana called out 6 more students over the course of her lecture. She continued for another 30 minutes, running over the details. Then she moved on from history to tactics, from tactics to mathematics, from mathematics to weaponry, from weaponry to anatomy. Her lessons were as interesting and informative as they were mind-numbing and terrifying, and I found no holes in the story, only details Kishimoto deemed unimportant but were actually vital for the class, for the world I was in. My brain felt like it was wrung with fabric softener by the time she deemed us worthy of recess. I was happy at the data I'd assimilated, and also way out of my depth. Half the break was spent on various discussions on how Hana was a damn hard ass compared to Irika, as far as I could hear. I focused on trying to pay attention to the conversations around me as I ate. Enhanced observational skills would play a big part of my life at the moment, so I eavesdropped on as many conversations as I could, reading body language, reading lips, and trying to guess the course of entire conversations. My success in the latter was fairly middling as far as I was concerned. I needed to practice. I needed to go at this far harder than anything I'd done in my previous life. I only had one fucking year. Less even. Then we went back and came out to the physical field. First, we warmed up. Stretches, runs, sprints, channeling chakra to our body parts. See, that was where I encountered my second and biggest problem. Channel your chakra, Yukushi. I had my hands clasped in the ram seal, focusing internally, seeking an energy, a warmth I was certain this body had used before. I tried to keep myself calm, to conquer my mounting frustration as I stood there like an idiot, much like in my previous life when I was a child, hoping beyond hope that I had that specific, impressively flexible internal energy system. Just like then, nothing. Fuck, was it me? Was it my nature as a foreign entity that had completely disrupted the internal balances in this body? I was certain that, as a consciousness and therefore a soul, I had a measure of spiritual energy. But was my extra-dimensional nature responsible for the alienation of my spiritual energy from my physical energy? What's wrong, Yukushi? Hana questioned, attracting a fucked-up level of attention. Your chakra's there. I can see it. Use it. I did not know. And it was terrifying and annoying in equal measures. It was only due to its nature as a mainstream shonen product that Naruto had never gone into the darker side of the shinobi world, only giving out cliché hints here and there, without all that much nuance outside of some notable exceptions. In a world with no such restrictions, no noble connections to speak of, and apparently no chakra, I could not be certain of my fate should I fail my final year. Continue your warm-ups, Hana ordered. We will attend to this matter in your detention. I did not have a friend, but I did have so much attention I wish I didn't have. I intellectually understood that I'd suck at being anything so late into the game, but I could not put it into words just how much my inner child hurt being the target of endless childish derision, even when I could ignore that pain. What's wrong, then? Mina-chan can't use his chakra? Are you okay? Did you get lazy in that apartment of yours? What were you even doing the whole summer break? It's okay, I'm sure you'll be fine if you quit. Well, guess we know who's going to fail this year, huh? Look at you. Ha ha, ha 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 ha. Nah, Mina can't use chakra. Perhaps Minato had more of an influence on me than I expected. That had to be expected though, right? He had to be, if I was to be able to use chakra at all. The body knew how to throw kunai and shuriken. It was a struggle for me to learn to work together with a muscle memory I did not know I had. I fucked up the first and second throws, but the more I threw, the easier it became to coordinate myself. 4 kunai and 7 shuriken hit the target out of 10, so 11 out of 20, and Hana was unimpressed. 3 minor injuries, 8 negligible, she declared. 8 and 8 last year, 5 major injuries, 3 minor, 1 negligible. Why have you fallen behind, Yukushi? Why did you not practice? Where is your chakra? Then taijutsu. I was matched with Niji Hyuga. He didn't want to fight me, but not for the reason you'd think. Hana told him it was mandatory. Niji got pissy. Needless to say, it did not go well. If you ever fought an angry Peter Parker before, you'd probably have a very good idea of how my encounter went. I only had time to put my hands up, then he bypassed my guard like nothing, hitting where it hurt and not once disguising his boredom and contempt. He toyed with me. I never could perceive the moment between him twitching his arm and his clenched fist landing expertly on my side. I was lucky he hadn't aimed for the liver. No, he didn't use gentle fist at the academy, not allowed. But he didn't need to. I went home with a massive bruise on my face, which was my fault. I lost my shit because went from not wanting to fight my pathetic ass to not wanting to end the fucking fight already, charged him, and he literally bitch slapped me down, and welts across every inch of my very soul. A medic healed it the next day, but apparently sleeping with my relatively minor injuries was deemed an acceptable punishment beyond the detention. They said it'd teach me not to lose my head, to channel my anger in a more acceptable manner. Freeze your anger, Hannah told me sternly. It must be cold, not hot. I went home, disadvantaged, hurt, confused, scared, and most importantly, fucking pissed off. I didn't sleep, trying with everything I had to find my chakra. I wouldn't sleep for a lot of nights. The first and final year in the academy was hell. It took me 6 days to figure out how to reconcile my spiritual energy with the body of this orphan and reconnect to my chakra. Day 1 went something like, "It's there," Hannah grunted, pulsing her chakra into my shoulder sharply. I hissed at the hot, uncomfortable flash of foreign, concentrated heat. I stared at her with momentary anger and confusion, because what she did was in no way refined and a sort of equivalent to that moment of what the hell when someone slapped you or spilled tea on you for no apparent reason. Use it. Concentrate. I put my hands up in the ram's seal, mirroring how Minato did it rather than how I did it. I was 13, okay. Shut up. The world rang around me as I focused inward, ignoring my thoughts and trying to find that pool, the spiral from which chakra generated itself. Then, on a whim, I shifted my hands. Hare. Reverse hare. Horse. Dragon. Ox. Tiger. Snake. Dragon. Dog. Boar. Bird. Oh, so that's how bird works. That seal always did confuse the fuck out of me. Ox. Tiger. Boar. Monkey. Snake. Ram. Dragon. Nothing. I winced as Hannah flashed her hot energy in my body again. Nothing? No. I don't understand. No, you do, she accused. Chakra is formed from spiritual energy and physical energy. There is a balance you maintain between the both of them, for the best results in your capacity and potency. You maintain that balance from the day you access your chakra, through training, through studying. It isn't so easy to let slip that you could possibly lose access to your chakra like this. But given weeks, perhaps even months of not actively using your chakra, or training, they said you were studious but average last year. Were you simply riding the coattails of your work on theory and physical? She pulsed her chakra into my body again, much harsher than before, and I grunted in pain. Your laziness will not stand here, Yakushi. Concentrate, and nothing. The next day, she ignored me. I ignored her back. Day 4, before I could even enter the school, she popped in out of nowhere, grabbed me on the back of my head, and then my stomach flipped and twisted, the world blurred, and I felt the atmosphere giving me a great big slap of wind. And how are we going so fucking fast, what the hell? Then we appeared in an unfamiliar building, which I could barely make out past my bleary state that, and I was fighting the urge to blow chunks, something I hadn't done in years. Shunshin, I realized. Probably Shunshin. Or a subtler version of Haration for all the fuck I know. God, erp. I groaned, sealing my mouth with my hand. Daft Huck? She did not, apparently, give a shit. Move. I barely had time to read anything about my surroundings before she half-led, half-pushed me inside. I had no idea what was going on, but my legs stumbled along with it. An antiseptic filled my nose. Am I in a hospital? By the time I'd regained my wits, she sat me down on a bed. What the hell? I groaned. What happened? She demanded. What? Do you know what happened to your chakra? She enunciated each word like she was speaking to an idiot. What happened to my chakra? I repeated helplessly. That is my question, yes. Her eyes narrowed. Were you attacked? Were you sealed? Your records show you were perfectly able to access your chakra last year, until the final day. What happened? I don't know, I shrugged. I genuinely have no idea what really happened, but I had a theory. Chakra was formed from a combination of physical energy/stamina and spiritual energy. There was a balance to be struck between both that would ultimately supply the generation of those reserves. Minato was fine, until I came into his body. So what happened? Was it my age and weakness unbalancing the combination so utterly that I couldn't access my chakra at all? Why? Specifically, why me? It worked out for everyone else on Fanon, and not just Fanon, Canon. Orochimaru was literally the walking, talking example of spiritual transfer and takeover, specifically not affecting the new host body. So me? Why? Or was there something else he did in the process of said takeover, something the ROB didn't? Did they not know they had to do it, or were they doing this for their entertainment? They would, wouldn't they? Fucker. The door opened when it closed. And a doctor walked in. Hold up. Wait, she had white eyes. She was a Hyuga. She was a doctor. She was a Hyuga doctor. A Hyuga doctor walked in. A Hyuga was allowed to be a medic nin. Oh god. Someone actually did the fucking smart thing in this world. What? Please hold. has temporarily lost all functions due to an unexpected technical issue and has to be shut down. All unsaved progress will be lost. Greetings, everyone, she bowed to us. Hagane bowed back, and I almost forgot to do the same. Greetings, Hyuga-san. Greetings, Hyuga-san. Is this our patient today, Hagane-san? The pale-eyed doctor inquired, smiling down at me. Minato Yakushi. He seems to be unable to access his chakra. Oh? Both of her eyebrows went up. Interesting. Shall I examine you, Yakushi-san? If it wouldn't inconvenience you, I replied politely. Please sit. I sat. Chakra exhaustion? No. He has been able to use chakra before? Normally. No seals, Yakushi? I shook my head. None that I know of, HM. The doctor considered the issue. The last visitation you had was 4 years ago, but that was for a minor injury. Do I have your permission to perform a diagnosis with my Byakugan? I stilled, wondering for a moment, but I decided to allow her. It was most likely nowhere near as bad as being examined by a Yamanaka. Yes, let's see. Then she activated her Byakugan seamlessly. It was unexpectedly intense, and a bit creepy to see the veins in her eyes bulge out like the veins on Dwayne Johnson's biceps. She frowned in puzzlement, shut her Byakugan down, then ran through a series of hand seals, reactivating it, somehow even more intense than before. Interesting, she hummed. Try activating your chakra. Like I raised my hands in the ram seal. Yes. Try to flare it. I shifted on the bed, going into a meditative pose, and focused inward again in yet another effort to find my ever-elusive energy reserves. Every inch of my body, not just my stomach from which it originated. From the crown of my head to the toes of my feet, I looked everywhere. Nothing, fuck damn it. How odd, the doctor hummed. Your pathways are fully formed, your tenketsu are in perfect shape, but why are your gates closed? Closed? Hana and I echoed simultaneously. I was too surprised to call out Jinx. Completely shut, she nodded. You should be in far worse shape, considering that. What do you mean closed? What gates? I asked, realizing belatedly that I probably wasn't supposed to really remember what chakra gates did. I never found anything on Minato's books and notes. More than likely, that was advanced theory roundabout Chunin level, probably, because the academy didn't want to risk any of the kids accidentally opening a gate flat out and tearing themselves apart. HM. The Hyuga tilted her head in clear curiosity, not shutting off her intimidating eyes. They don't teach you about chakra gates at the academy? Silence. I thought back to my notes. If they did, I probably forgot. Not since Masato Sakai, Hana supplied. Masato Sakai, the Hyuga hummed. Would it be that boy with? Yes. It was deemed too dangerous, because if Sakai did, then other children could try opening their own without supervision. Well, that sounds dangerous, I hummed. I'm guessing chakra gates are, what, some kind of internal valves. They regulate. What do they regulate in our chakra? Hana regarded me with a raised eyebrow. You have an interesting head for connecting dots, Yakushi. Why do we not see this in the academy? I blinked. Must he know? Hana inquired of the doctor, now completely ignoring me. I suppose it couldn't hurt, the doctor shrugged. He's already figured out enough to at least know the basics. With that decision made, she turned back to me. Chakra gates, as you deduced, are indeed internal regulators. They regulate how much chakra we can use, in order to ensure that we don't overexert ourselves and either tear our own bodies apart, or completely exhaust ourselves to the point of death. So, from what I can tell, somehow, your gates were closed, well beyond what they should be, yet I see no chakra suppressant seals on any part of your body. The fact that you don't seem to be in any sort of pain or illness is impressive. Your spiritual energy is very strong for your age. Did anything unusual happen to you during your summer break? Well, I did reincarnate and take over this poor fucker's body, but no, that wasn't during summer break. Not that I know of. No, I said slowly, trying to poke at anything left of Minato's memories. No, I don't think so. Nothing unusual happened to me over the summer break, which, technically, was the truth. If anything happened, I was probably asleep. I see. The Hyuga hummed. Well, I think we have a way forward. We must try to reopen your valves so you can access your chakra again. Mind you, this will be a delicate operation, one you'll have to actively participate in. We'll ease the way forward for you, but ultimately, it's up to you to unlock your chakra. I understand. I took a second to breathe. When can we start? Well, we must make the appropriate arrangements and prepare a room for you, the Hyuga nodded. So after school, I would say, would work. Agreed, Hana nodded. Minato, to the front doors. I will meet you there, and we will return to the academy. Ah, shit. Private discussion. What did I fuck up? Keeping any trepidation out of my face, I nodded. Sure. I got off the bed, moving out. The whole time, I tried my best to suppress any buzz of nerves on me. I ran through the whole conversation. Where did I go wrong? Did it work out? Would I end up being exposed to Yamanaka or getting danzoed? The two of them were fucking ninja, one Chunin and one Hyuga medic, so Chunin, bare minimum. They had to have seen through me. What do I do? Will they actually help me? Am I fucked? Jesus. Fucking. Rob, I would strangle that motherfucker if I ever got my hands on them. Hana maintained her silence as her student left, letting Maki Hyuga keep an eye on him as he made his way to the front of the hospital. When the doctor disabled her Kekei Genkai, she decided to speak up. Your thoughts, Maki-san? You definitely need a Hyuga to check your students, and soon, Maki nodded. Luckily, you have one volunteer. This is the second case of chakra defects in our young, and a bit more unusual than the last one. I believe his name is Rock Lee? What was wrong with him? Genetic defect. We have reason to suspect one of his parents was someone familiar to you, Isshin Hagakure. Isshin? Hana's eyes widened in recognition of her dead teammate. I didn't know he had a son. It's not confirmed yet. We still have to run a DNA test. I can ask him later today. Good. Please do that. Remember when Akasuna no Sasori ran into your old genin squad? Hana inhaled, suppressing her bitterness at the memories of that clusterfuck with, well, perhaps not ease, but practiced habit. Why? Shunsui Uchiha, Isshin, and their then new sensei, Gecko Hate, had come off the worst in that clash. Shunsui developed lung cancer and died. Isshin was crippled, managed to adapt and made steps towards being a silent killing specialist, but suffered an untimely death in the QB attack. Hayate sensei walked it off with a chronic lung infection. Hana was in ANBU boot camp at the time, and had not been privy to that patrol routine then. She was certain that, if not saved them, she could have made some vital difference. They did return with vital intel about Sasori that they shared with Suna, which thus managed to head them off and ultimately formed the treaty they currently had. It was one of the more significant steps to the end of the Third Shinobi War that would culminate in the Yellow Flash massacre, but the cost to her old team still gnawed at her conscience. Gecko-sensei wouldn't tell her differently. And then that fucking drunk Sannin lost her boyfriend and then lost her shit and abandoned the village. She could have saved them. Just the thought of it irritated Hana. Did that stupid blonde really think she was the only one that lost loved ones in that stupid war? Tsunade was not present to attend him, but the medic Nin team on hand managed to save him. However, Hagakure's gates would malfunction and filter less chakra to him since then, ultimately crippling his ninjutsu ability. That's why he had to change his specialization, Hana nodded. A good decision, too, Maki approved. He was a talented assassin since it was easier for him to suppress his chakra, but far from the ninjutsu specialist he used to be. The theory is that Rock Lee's own gates were completely closed for years as a result of the defect passed on genetically, and somehow this wasn't discovered until his examination last year. We managed to perform the opening, but he'll never be able to use ninjutsu or genjutsu of any notable caliber, if at all, so he's doomed to dead last. The Hyuga scoffed ruefully. This hospital's standards have been falling since Tsunade-sama left. Yet another black mark against her, in Hana's opinion. Genetic defects cannot explain Yakushi's case, though, Hana pointed out, wanting to be done with the subject. His chakra use was completely within the norm for his age group last semester. Yes, that is something we have to investigate. It certainly is unusual, Maki nodded. Thankfully, we caught it right on time, so it shouldn't be as difficult as it was with Rock Lee. Bring him back this afternoon, won't you? Of course. Hana and Maki parted ways, both having quite a few things to think about. If Lee really was Isshin's son, Hana had to keep a sharp eye on his progress, same with Yakushi. My kingdom for at least a fucking Zune and my Spotify playlist and mixes. I forced myself through another set of push-ups, reaching and surpassing 90 with frightening and ridiculous ease despite the youth of this body. People on this world were built different, and it was that damn well obvious. I just wish that different included the brand of music from my old world. Or any recorded music at all. I'd probably have to look into doing it myself, though. Perhaps start in Kumo? They had a mild appreciation for rap, even if Killer Bee was killing their ears. I reached 150 in another minute or two, wishing I had something blasting on the background. Then I moved on to other sets of various exercises and stretches, and drank it all down with a nice jog around the circuit while reading a, heavily filtered for the safety of our young minds probably and also propagandized, booklet on the most powerful shinobi in history. I was reading up on the first Kazekage, Reto, and what little the Leaf knew of him. The man was a bad motherfucking ass. Damn, going beyond uniting the desert dwellers that were before Sunagakure came to being, set up back in the day was kind of like Arrakis, but significantly less harsh, and without the sandworms or the tech or united Arakeen. Reto, formerly of some sort of monk temple, oh, that temple, was a mad futon ninjutsu specialist. Word was that his skill was scalable from subtle wind blades to a straight-up Cat 3 hurricane. He was one of the first shinobi after Hashirama to give a Bijou the beatdown in his case, Shikaku, and the first to do it completely without wood release and in the right middle of the motherfucking desert at that, with the rest of his mates walking in and sealing up Shikaku, finishing up that particular capture. That was pretty much one of the ultimate factors that led to the formation of their village and his negotiating power at the first Gakage meeting. And there was a massive gap in information, but he died like Edward Kenway. Random assassination. Pretty unfair, to be honest, considering who he was and how much he'd achieved. Interestingly, though, of all the Gakage, the 3 Kazekage were the only ones to each die by assassination. No grand final battles. No explosive exits, or quiet retirements. Just one moment alive, surprise, motherfucker, // next moment dead. Reto's assassin remained unknown to the day, Same with the second Kazekage, and Noru, the third Kazekage, was also unknown for a while, which was one of the deciding factors of the beginning of the Third Shinobi War, until Konoha uncovered the assassin's identity. No names were named, except we all knew who done it, but the credit for the discovery was gladly taken by the Leaf. Raza would not have his time yet. I contemplated. Do I save him? Meh. I'd decide later. It wouldn't be that easy if I decided to commit anyway. He was a shite father to Gaara anyway. Side note, it was interesting to me that they had a lot of information lying around if anyone was willing to look around for it in the library, notably, the Biju. I was reasonably certain they had altered a lot of information about Kurama himself, since the status of his Jinchuriki wasn't exactly supposed to be common information, but there was a lot of basic information to be discovered in the library that, interestingly, in canon, only came to play down the line as Part 1 went on. Stuff about the clans, the Kekkei Genkai/Hijitsu within Konoha, our most famous jonin, stuff like that. There was stuff above our pay grade, but not as much as I expected. Made me wonder how Sakura was touted as book smart but apparently knew almost none of that shit. Hermione would be disappointed. I was working out and reading at the same time, and increasing my multitasking skills by simultaneously lamenting about the lack of headphones and music in this frankly fucking weird techless/teched-out world. Everybody else was practicing Leaf concentration or one of the Academy 3 or something. Well, not everybody else. Yash! Lee cheered as he easily kept pace with me. Your renewed drive is amazing to see, Minato-kun. Thanks, Lee. My voice was a bit less casual, the exercise starting to wear a little on my stamina. Sure, much higher than it was in my previous life, but even it had limits. What I wouldn't give to be a Jinchuriki. We kept on running for a while, intending to finish up the physical period like that, and then Lee broke the silence. Would I impose if I asked a personal question? I took my eyes off the booklet for a second. Depends on the question. Well, what drove you to pick up the pace, Minato-kun? He inquired. I broke my run and transitioned to a fast skip so I could look at him, still keeping pace with Lee. Why? Lee shut down for a moment, and visibly gathered his composure. I am finding myself at a difficult time. This is the final year of the academy. That it will be important to master the Academy 3 is an understatement. But the doctors say they have done everything they could. I can manipulate my chakra internally now. But I learned, 2 days ago, ninjutsu are simply beyond me. Most of the teachers have told me the same ever since my diagnosis. I am doomed to fail. A hard silence enveloped us as we continued our run, and I considered his words. I dog-eared the booklet. I know, monster, blah blah, buy me the fucking bookmark, and closed it, stashing it in my pocket. It's not like I'm in a much better position, I grunted, transitioning back to our mid-paced run. I dropped the ball pretty hard myself. I was in the middle of the pack last year, either good, nor bad, just lazy, and well, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you yet. But I'm not completely certain of my chances to pass, either. Not as long as I couldn't access my chakra at all. Doesn't mean I'm giving up, and neither should you. He came to a stop without warning, forcing me to do the same. How would I pass without the Academy 3? He frowned. You have a chance. You have chakra. I don't. I can't do any of them. That's the requirement for me to become a genin. I considered him for a moment, remembering the absolute taijutsu monster he would be in 2 years. I remembered what he could do, what he couldn't, and the potential he'd absolutely squandered by choosing to focus solely on taijutsu, the potential he could have permanently crippled when he chose to pursue his fight against Gaara when it became apparent that he wasn't piercing his defenses by conventional brute force, and thus the solution would be unconventional brute force. The same old shit, ramped up to insane levels that had a goddamn Jinchuriki pressed for a minute there. It was awesome. It was glorious. It was fucking stupid. This was not him. If I had it my way, that would never be him. This boy would be far better. I interrupted him with action, dramatically whipping up 3 fingers before he could finish his sentence. I let his shocked silence pass him by, then I interrupted him when he opened his mouth again. Why are you running? I demanded. What? Why are you running? What? I rolled my eyes. Time to pick a page out of the old playbook. What country you from, Lee? What? What ain't no country I ever heard of, I sneered, approaching his personal space. I took a little sadistic joy in his adorably confused, utterly put-off expression. Do they speak Nihongo and what? What? Nihongo, motherfucker. I roared. Do you speak it? Well, that's how I'm speaking to you right now. He started out strong, but the longer he went on, the angrier my scowl became, breaking his answer down to smaller, quieter words. Then why aren't you answering the simple fucking question? I loomed over him. Why? Are you running? Someone approached us. Is there some? I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing. I pointed at them without even looking, completely caught up in the moment. We are busy. You. I turned back to him, and he was alternating between gaping at me and gaping at whoever was next to us. Look at me. Look at me, and Minato-kun. There's Lee. I growled, startling him. I don't give a shit. My eyes are on you, your eyes are on me. Answer the question. Why are you running? You know your situation. You're saying it yourself. You're thinking of giving up, because it looks fucking impossible now, doesn't it, Minato? Why are you running? Tell me. Why are you still here? Despite everything, you're here like you are every single day. Why? Lee blubbered. I have to. I don't know what to do, but I can't just do nothing. I don't. I held up the 3 fingers again, cutting him off. Know what this means? I demanded. Will you yell at me if I ask? No. Ask. He hesitated anyway, eyes darting off to the person on our side. What does it mean? You. I pointed at him, then flicked back to the 3 fingers again. Have 3 routes. 3 ways you will pass the genin exam, acquire your promotion, and serve the village hidden in the leaves till death do you part. They are simple. Number 1, Taijutsu. Number 2, Ansatsu Jujutsu. Number 3, Bukijutsu. You said you can express your chakra internally, didn't you? So there is one path you can walk on. His wide eyes darted around me with an astonishing rapidity. There was a sentence I never thought I'd think up, as he took my words in. Which is it? He asked, his voice cracking with emotion. Hope, perhaps, a hope so desperate it moved me. Taijutsu? Assassination? Bukijutsu? I can choose one. Which is it? Out of the 3? Are you kidding? What kind of question is that? I squinted at him. You're not choosing. You're doing all of that. All of it. Your body, Rock Lee, is waiting for you to catch your ass up and push it to its absolute zenith. In here, I tapped his shoulder twice, lies a magnificent wellspring of greatness, awaiting the day you unearth it. Work hard, Rock Lee. Train. Condition your body. Beat the training pole until your knuckles bleed. Damage yourself, break down and rebuild every muscle in your body. Your fists will shatter boulders like glass, your steps quieter than a breeze in the forest, your weapons not tools, but extensions of the deadliest ninja Konoha will ever see. Your kunai and shuriken will hit rapidly moving targets with contemptuous ease. Your bow and nunchaku will break everything they hit, and your silence will be overwhelming and lethal. Do you understand, Rock Lee? Do you understand that is why your body is running? That it's calling to you? Can't you feel it? Can't you feel your heart pumping? He nodded, hesitantly, almost shyly at first, then fervently. It's calling you. It wants you to run, to work hard. Work harder than you ever did your whole life, Rock Lee, and your effort will not go unnoticed. Do you understand? I understand. Are you gonna keep my words in every cell in your body, Rock Lee? He nodded eagerly, his eyes shining eagerly. I will keep your words in every cell in my body, Minato-kun. I nodded in approval. Good. Now get to it. Silence. Are you still here? I yelled hysterically. Run, you fool! Run! I'm running! I'm running! He took off immediately, a great deal faster than he had just before. Yashuwa. I'm gonna be string. I knew that dude was weird even before Guy got to him. Well, that was the most embarrassing speech I ever dreamed up, I muttered to myself. I'm actually surprised it worked. So am I, a voice unexpectedly spoke up next to me. I checked and did a double take when I realized it was Hana-sensei. I face-faulted when I realized she was there the entire time, and, 1 Samuel L. JACKSON off at my freaking sensei, I'm so dead, I sighed, getting up and facing my execution with an utterly resigned expression. Good afternoon, Hana-sensei. How may I die today? I considered 5 weeks, she grunted. Due to the circumstances, however, and your show of support and motivation, I will reduce the deficit to 2 weeks of detention. We watched Lee lap us, almost blurring past us on our left with how fast he was moving. With that being said, should you disrespect me like that in front of my students again? She slashed out my throat. No, actually she slashed my stomach open and fuck it hurt, and my guts were spilling open and I was gonna die, I was dead, I was. No, she severed my leg with contemptuous ease and a simple kunai. I was bleeding out, and she was watching. I was gonna die, I was dead, and I slammed back to reality, as if the elephant that jumped on my shoulders gave me mercy and got off. I wanted to move, but I couldn't. I wanted to sweat, but I couldn't. I wanted to blink, but I couldn't. I wanted to breathe, but I couldn't. Raw fear overwhelmed everything I was, everything I could do, everything I wanted to do, and if I moved, I would die, and my body understood that even when I did not. HANAHAGNEWNTDTOMURDRMEANDSHEWLD. And then she didn't, and she allowed me to breathe again, and thank fuck I was breathing. What the fuck was that? You get the picture, I trust, she said. Lee lapped us once more. Yeah. My voice was small. I paused when I felt a dampness on my nether regions, one I hadn't felt since I was a child. When the fuck did I piss my pants? We are 3 minutes into lunchtime, she informed me, as if she hadn't just nearly made me shit myself, and only made me lose my bladder control instead. Change your trousers. Go eat. At the end of the learning period, I will take you to hospital, and your treatment will begin. I understand. She was there. Then she wasn't. Hannah Higane was a terrifying fucking woman. So, I whispered to myself. That's killing intent. Jesus fucking Christ. Lee lapped me again. That was killing intent. Powerful, and so tightly controlled and concentrated that only I would feel its effects, if Lee still running around was anything to go by. Hana was no ordinary chunin. No fucking way she was. Unless she was like Kosuke and Might Dewey, much more powerful than her rank would suggest. More than likely, she was chunin by choice. Sasuke Uchiha was a hack, a cheat, a charlatan. I could not believe he did not shit himself when Zabuza and Orochimaru did that to him. Sakura probably did. I figured it out. PG-13. Ninja or not, it was probably illegal to draw and or animate 12-year-olds experiencing spontaneous momentary lassitude in bowel control. Yeah, I was totally accepting that explanation. Also conveniently ignoring the fact that I was chronologically 26 years old, an adult, and they were children. School ended, and not a moment too soon. Hagane-sensei and I entered the hospital. The Hyuga doctor, who was mad thick, if I might mention, led us to a room with seals, not dissimilar to the room in which Hatake Kakashi once sealed Sasuke's cursed seal. Before she allowed us to enter, though, she had me stripped down to my underwear, ran through a set of hand seals, touched my shoulder, and something from her pulsed into me. It was far gentler than the way Hagane-sensei did it when she tried to force me to feel my chakra, and it was actually kind of relaxing. I felt like I'd stepped out of a shower. What was that? I asked, eyes wide. Ayashi no Heido no Jutsu, she explained. It relieves any exertion you've gone through for the day, and also cleanses your body. Works as well as any disinfectant. Right. I had a sudden thought at the very concept of the jutsu. But how's it different from, say, what's this one, something about the palm? The Shosen? She smiled encouragingly. Yes, that one. I'm impressed that you've even heard of it. Your well of knowledge is deeper than your sensei has estimated, HM? As for the differences, Shosen is much more thorough, and much better used when the target has severe wounds and broken bones. Ayashi no Heido works well for situations like these, and especially after a training session, as long as the strain isn't too severe. She gave me an intense look, which meant she was about to give me a warning. Should you ever manage to learn this, don't be reckless and think it'll heal you 100% every time you finish an intense training session. You still need to rest. And it's useless in missions, so you have to understand how to use first aid or walk the path of an Irionin if you wish to treat anyone during a mission. Come now, the room is ready. Hagane-sensei stayed outside. Here, she gestured, leading me to the center of the ceiling array, on which lay a giant black kanji, for I believe it was unblock, but I could be wrong. Sit on top of the kanji. Saiza, please. It won't smudge the ink? Not in the slightest. Okay. I kneeled down, folded my legs underneath my body, and sat perfectly upright. Good, you have very good positioning, the doctor complimented. Now, when I activate this seal, you will feel a tugging sensation throughout your body. Focus on your torso, but do not use a hand seal or you will disrupt the Fuin network. When you feel that tugging sensation, try to force it upwards and outwards. Your chakra will be encouraged to mix and emerge, and will follow your pathways naturally. You have to keep that up for as long as you can, with the goal of trying to force it to radiate from your entire body. In other words, feel your chakra, and when you do, flare it. Do you understand, Yakushi-san? I understand. What will you do? React to the tugging, force it to move throughout my body and out of it. I must not use any hand seal. Very good. Let us begin. Are you ready? I'm ready. She nodded, ran through a series of hand signs, activated her intense Byakugan, and then weaved another chain of hand signs. The room lit up as the Fuin glowed, and the effects hit me. My chakra was unlocked. I felt raw, warm power surge through my body. I could move mountains. I could crush the Biju. I could teleport anywhere. I just became a god, capital G. The awesomeness of my power was so radiant, it instantly blinded the Hyuga in front of me. I was gonna hunt Obito Uchiha and skullfuck him and Zetsu too. I felt fucking invincible. Pfft, CK. You really thought it was gonna be that easy? Nah. That shit hurt like a motherfucker. I screamed like one too. How to describe connecting to chakra? Well, usually people would say it was like a warmth in the gut that spread to the whole body. And technically it was. But that was considering, well, the lucky/normal scenario. Normally, people access their chakra at a tender age, say, anywhere between 3 and 6, if they were born for the career or for any other career in which chakra was an important component. From 5 to 8, people would learn the basics: reading, writing, math, basic science, agriculture, a weird-ass version of life orientation, calligraphy, and physical education. Civilians went on elsewhere, while civilians deemed good enough for a shot at ninja training went on to the academy. From there, a 4-year course on the basics of being a ninja until graduation, from where one would become a genin, or fail and, depending on how bad it was, repeat the final year or drop out altogether and go full-time civvy, which brought up a lot of questions I couldn't find the answers to. So, standard stuff. That was how they did it. For me, it was not very comfortable. Not at all. Pissed me right off, when I thought about it. See, I was dropped into the body of, what, an 11-year-old. Yeah, 11-year-old, an 11-year-old, with zero warning or proper preparation, somehow severing the yin-yang connection in the body that generated the chakra, which resulted in my gates being closed completely and my chakra effectively sealed completely. That put me in a worse position than even Rock Lee, who at least could express his chakra internally, but only enough to do the basics. Tree walking, water walking, and gate opening. So, to rectify that, an operation had to be done on me to reopen my chakra gates and allow that shit to flow in my body again. How was it? It hurt. It wasn't too bad at first, uncomfortable really, because the sensation of something twisting and churning in my guts and the rest of my internal organs pressed me something fierce. It was akin to, I wasn't quite sure how to describe it, but perhaps the closest comparison I could make was a slowly onsetting muscle strain, not dissimilar, perhaps, to doing crunches in slow motion and feeling that strain and eventual burn every step of the way. Chakra was like a particularly enjoyable training session, strenuous, nothing particularly relaxing to immerse myself in, yet the endless inner warmth and unshakable confidence it engendered was compellingly powerful, so much so that I felt like, if I could stretch a little more, I could just crack a mountain with one punch. Then after that initial discomfort, it felt good. Then it hurt. I opened my eyes, and when had I closed them? And I took a moment to revel in the power. I couldn't see my chakra, I could feel it. I could see why so many fictional characters were smug bastards. A warmth unlike any other, flowing about my stomach like water. Concentrate. Don't stop. The Hyuga doctor barked at me, snapping me out of my trance. The process is not over yet. How far? I asked. Not far, she told me bluntly. Your chakra is still pulled around your stomach. Focus on guiding it to the rest of your body. I opened my mouth to ask how, but stopped myself in time. That would be awfully fucking suspicious, and settled for a nod. Guesswork time. Revise what you know and put it to practice. I had to internalize for once and again, not emotionally, but literally, physically. I inhaled deeply, exhaled, and inhaled once more, shuddering at the unnatural, powerful sensation in my stomach, absolutely nothing like having a filled meal or a need to take a two, and yet inexplicably normal, with me being the abnormal factor. Oh wait. Anyway, I shut my eyes once more, shut out the world for the power in my body. I focused strictly on my deep breaths and the new power vested in me by simple existence, an easy task given how proprioceptively distinct it was, a new biological capillarity, exactly similar and different to the way a deaf man would experience sound for the first time in his life. It was an odd, unique state of matter, chakra was, and my mental grasp on it felt like cupping water in my hands that was actually also concentrated water vapor. So, I tried to tell myself, take it and move it all over your body. The act of using my hands to grasp as much of the chakra as I could was the easiest to visualize, hands that did not hold all that power, yet grasped everything all the same. I whirled my chakra upwards, shuddering at the almost hot, slightly ticklish sensation of its upsurge through. Oh, hold on. Why is it going to the right of my stomach? I had my answer as soon as I asked, my mind snapping to a memory of the way Kishimoto drew chakra pathways, an anti-clockwise swirl emanating from the stomach that propagated throughout the body in ways not dissimilar to the way blood worked its way through the body via numerous veins, arteries and capillaries. Not the cardiovascular system, definitely, but absolutely vital all the same to my new way of life. My chakra was carving, perhaps recarving, its pathways, drawn without my remit to follow the spiral and build unto the rest of the body. I let it, following and guiding the flow, my upper body gently swaying in an imitation of that spiral, pushing round and outwards to the rest of my body. I shuddered, feeling an ecstasy so incredible it was almost sexual, as power flowed throughout the rest of my body, the hands splitting again, and splitting again in ways I understood and simply could not comprehend, guiding the way, reaching the apex of my head, the tips of my fingers, and the tips of my toes, the latter not as difficult as I'd subconsciously expected. I have chakra. I made it. I have chakra. Good. Good. I heard. Now flare it outwards. I inhaled once more, my hands rising in opposition to my flattening diaphragm, and my arms spread as I pushed out. I gasped as I felt my entire skin crawl, and my eyes opened to see a dim, flaring aura, white enough that I could just make it out in the candlelit room, yet so hazy that it was like vapor. Hold it like that, the Hyuga told me. Hold it that way for as long as you can. I'll tell you when to stop. I didn't acknowledge her but followed her instruction nonetheless, making the effort to maintain my exudation. My eyes widened in shock when my chakra began tapering off. I was faltering. No, keep it up. Push it out as hard as you can. Whatever you visualized before, try it again but sustain it. I inhaled, then I blinked in realization. Visualization. That's the key. That has to be it. Visualize exuding power from your body, unlocking it, pushing it out. And what better example to visualize than AZ Warrior? I disrupted my seiza, perhaps far more than it already was, my knees spreading away, my arms shifting to a tame imitation of a horse stance. And I pushed, gritting my teeth, tensing every muscle I could. 30 seconds. She called out. My chakra was much less hazy now, and it was definitely off-white in color, raging wildly with my intent to push to the highest possible level. Huh! Isn't chakra supposed to be blue? 20. It was becoming increasingly harder, like pushing past 50 crunches. I was quite literally shaking with the effort to push my power out. It became harder and harder with each second, a mounting strain that I had to find some energy from somewhere to maintain. 10. Naruto was fucking bullshit. I roared, A sustained noise, forcing myself to keep going just a little bit longer. Somehow, it helped, making my efforts more complete. One more, and stop. My chakra flickered off, and I almost fell with it. I felt like I'd completed 6 more sets of a particularly difficult exercise, somehow pushing through even my exhausted exhaustion. Man, that. Hey, I died. Hey, I was fairly certain that I died. Because there was no other explanation for how holy fuck everything was fucking suddenly on fire, and the pain was pervading as it was unexpected as it was thorough as it hurt like a motherfucking flash burn in space. Hey, I heard noise through the white of my sheer agony. It took me a long time to realize it was me, screaming in agony, and I'd finally fallen on the ground. Oh, so I'm alive. That's why it hurts. Well, the fucking way it hurts. I'd prefer to die again. I cried. I wouldn't be too proud to admit that pain made tears come straight out them ducks. It felt like something had grabbed me in every possible part of my body and began the methodical, delicate, calculated process of fucking tearing me apart. If this was how every demon felt when the Doomed Slayer got his hands on them, it was a fucking wonder that none of them ran away. I felt something latch onto my arm through the pain, grip as solid as that of a leech, and I felt myself lurch upwards. I heard a voice shouting something about tigers. I had no fucking idea, but then I felt a gentle jab on my shoulder, then another, and another set of 4 on my torso, then another set of 8 on different areas of my arms and torso, and I was reasonably certain I was falling again. It stopped. My pain receptors just completely shut down, going from holy fuck, all the DEFCON, to oh okay, we're good. It was frankly shocking, to be honest, like instantaneously effective anesthetic for a man with his body burnt through with unholy fire literally 6 seconds ago. Trigrams, I thought with faint realization. Trigrams? She hit me with the 8 trigrams. Didn't feel like that many palms, I don't think. 16, maybe? Or I just didn't feel the rest? What? I vocalized, my voice croaking like I'd been, oh god, I had been shouting. The fuck? You just experienced chakra cramps, she explained, setting my legs so I could lie down straight. Chakra cramps? Chakra can cramp? What fucking kind of cramp was that? A common occurrence when one opens their gates, she explained, while I was taking in that information. It's why it's so difficult to open them and release your chakra limiters willingly, the agony of having so much power rippling through your entire body at once without any prior adaptation and training is enough to discourage most people from trying it, and pushing past even that will have dire consequences. Muscle tears, severe arterial ruptures, eventually paralysis and death. Do you remember Masato Sakai? Yes? I remember you mentioned him yesterday, yes. He had an unexpected physical condition that completely prevented him from feeling pain. Such an ability would have made him a wonderful and exceptionally resilient shinobi, and his potential was one, if I remember correctly, that was of great interest to many in the ranks of Konoha. With that advantage in mind, he performed an experiment at some point and pushed to open his gates, and the backlash, while not fatal, ended his potential career, and for the first time in his life, he truly felt pain, for he'd kept his gate of opening open for too long. The sheer, continuous strain ended his life. This was before I became a doctor here. It wouldn't have been too difficult for me to find a way to correct the issue, but it was impossible for everyone else since Sakai would have been a vital part of the closing process, and he could not concentrate. Until a sensory ninja or a Hyuga joins the ranks, I am the only doctor in this village that can be classified as an expert on chakra treatment. You didn't say it would hurt so much. I had faith in you to handle the pain. And you have. That you can speak at all is a testament to an impressive will for someone of your age. You have done a fantastic job. Besides, it was necessary that we do it this way. With these seals, we could open most of your gates as far as possible, even all the way, otherwise this wouldn't work. Why all the way? I croaked. To force your chakra out, she said. I closed some of your tenketsu to keep your chakra pooled around the gates, so it can build up, maintain the openings and allow you to produce usable chakra, permanently. You'll be able to use ninjutsu and genjutsu eventually, and with the right training, your taijutsu and movement will also sharpen to the standards of any decent shinobi. Now, this is what will happen from here. You will be taken to our non-intensive care wards, and you will stay here for the night while your body recuperates and readapts to your condition. I don't want you to strain yourself too much for the next 4 days. Do not, under any circumstances, try to access your chakra for the rest of today and for as much of tomorrow as possible to give your body time to heal and rest. No hand seals. No messing with your chakra. Nothing. Do you understand? If you mess this up, you may well damage your chakra coils and possibly cripple yourself, ending your career as an active ninja. I nodded as fervently as I could. Definitely had to avoid that. Good. Last question. Her eyes burned into mine. Please do not attempt to lie to me, I will see if you do. Do you understand? A small spike of horror shot through my body like a 50 calories. Ah, great. I'm in shit. I'm gonna kill that fucking Arobi for this. Don't worry, it's nothing too difficult. I'm only checking a theory. Don't worry about it. Here, let me ask now. She drew herself up a little. Do you know who shut your gates? Fyuk. And I couldn't lie, or those eyes of hers would catch me out instantly. I doubted I could just twist my words into some convoluted technical unlie the same way Pinocchio did to Prince Charming on Shrek. Was it Shrek 3? Either way. I couldn't lie, and I couldn't risk another technicality. I'm not entirely sure. Whoever or whatever did it, I didn't detect it until class. Maybe I was taken advantage of while I was sleeping, or maybe some kind of accident happened. I'm really not sure. She examined me for way too long for my comfort, and ultimately nodded without saying anything. Come, she said eventually. Get up. Oh god, fuck, I'm fucked. A bit after settling Minato on his bed and leaving him with some requested reading material, Maki met Hana outside the hospital. Hana leaned against the wall, basking in the warm afternoon sunlight. How is he? She asked. He'll pull through. It's a good thing we confronted this so early, otherwise there really would be another Lee. Speaking of which, the results on him should be ready by tomorrow. Check with me after you finish your classes. Hana hummed, somewhat relieved that it worked and that she'd have her answers that soon. Anything? He doesn't seem to know any more than we do. I'm not entirely certain that he was entirely truthful, however. I think he has a theory, and beneath all the nervousness there was some twinge of annoyance. Perhaps humiliation? I'm not sure. So is he a spy or one of Danzo-sama's? Maki shook her head. I doubt it. It would be unusual. Even by his standards we can certainly control our emotions better than the boy could. There's something he's afraid of me finding out, but the likelihood of him being a spy is minimal to non-existent. I think he was more humiliated and annoyed about the situation than anything, and didn't want me to know of any of his guesses about what happened. So, something he did to himself. Hana's voice was flat, unimpressed. Could be. I can't quite understand what specific sort of mess-up could possibly cut off his access to chakra so completely without the 8 trigrams, complete palm, or a suppressant seal. So we can't discount anything, but we certainly should keep our eye on him. Should we have a Yamanaka have a look? No. He's an academy student, but at this time he's still technically a civilian. There are laws against that even we must comply with, and this is certainly not an abuse of power we can keep suppressed. We'll just have to go with the old-fashioned methods and give it time. There's plenty of ways. Hana considered the situation. Too obvious and incompetent to be a spy. Not enough control over his emotions to be a root agent in the field, from your experience. Inexperienced and foolhardy enough that he somehow fucked his gates and closed them by accident. Not loud enough to be some kind of distraction. There's specifically nothing of value in the academy, and if he was a potential recruit for Root, Hana glanced at her. Is he? No. Not quite competent enough, no unique skills, no relation to that Yakushi, from what has been studied of his DNA, no possibility that he may have encountered Nono-san, too young for that, she never made it out of that mission in AIM anyway. Don't spread this around, but Danzo-sama hates working with children, unless they have a mindset little Minato doesn't have. Too unpredictable. What may be incredibly effective for one child would break another. He doesn't seem to be in that situational bracket that would make him a perfect potential recruit anyway. Nothing stands out about him except those closed gates. Nothing special, then. No. Keep an eye on him, all the same, but nothing screams that this has to be kicked higher up the chain, which only means we have to watch him anyway. Maki shrugged. Perks of the job. Love it. Hana got off the wall. Fine, I'll head on and collect my material to mark. When should I expect him back in class? Aftermorrow. Day of discharge? This time tomorrow. Very well. Later, Maki-san. Maki inclined her head. Hana-san. Hana shunshined out. Boredom. Frustrating boredom. I had no way of passing the time other than reading whatever I could get from Hyuga-san. I couldn't even access my newly found chakra, otherwise I'd put myself in shit. It was so frustrating to have chakra just there and not be able to use it at all. It was a lot like having a Ferrari in the garage, but the wife took the steering wheel away. It was annoying, unnerving, and most of all, boring, so I decided to sleep. That worked. Then it didn't. Then it did. Then it didn't. Hospital food sucked here too, by the way. One afternoon, after God knows how long, a nurse came to me and told me I was finally getting discharged. I wondered about payment plans. Turned out a small part of my stipend went into a setup quite like Britain's NHS, and given that it was my first visit to the hospital in little years, I didn't have to worry about nothing. Perfect and convenient. I went home and studied. I wanted to bathe in my chakra again, but I decided not to risk it. Then I went to sleep. So, Day 5. Hana gave me some personal attention, surprisingly. She watched over me as I brought my chakra out once more, completely without needing to use a ram's seal, or any at all. I wondered if that was unusual, or perhaps I didn't need to focus on bringing it out like Naruto had to at the time. Maybe I was just overly sensitive to having it. It was new to me, and it just really stuck out to my proprioception, like having a knife in the stomach but in a good way. Weird, right? Yeah, definitely weird. Or maybe just like having a new sense, or full access to a sense that was completely repressed before. Yeah, actually, that described my situation far better. Knife in the stomach, but in a good way. WTF? Where'd that come from? Chakra was like having a new limb out of absolutely nowhere, one that did not have muscles and therefore wasn't moved conventionally. What I found was that the entire body had to be committed to the act, including the mind. So, I had to visualize how I wanted the chakra to move, then probably commit the appropriate physical movements to facilitate its movement. Hand seals. I hadn't quite tested their effects yet, Hyuga's words about straining myself too much for the next few days lingering in my mind, but I figured basic chakra exercises wouldn't be too strenuous for me to do. They discharged me, after all, and policy after being let go was to take it easy for the next day or two, do whatever the doc recommended, then get on with life. Hannah made sure I didn't fuck anything up when I brought it up, and she gave me a leaf. I got what she wanted me to do, so I complied. Leaf concentration was easy? The fuck? Jeez. No, seriously, it was weirdly easier than I expected. Stick a leaf to my head, bring out chakra to make it stick to my forehead. I did fuck it up at first, channeling too much and blowing the leaf off my head, and I did that a couple more times, but I realized that, just like when I brought it out, I needed to picture and control how much I was using. Kind of like figuring out accelerator pedal control, and from there, a couple more attempts and I got it down pat. It was stupid easy. It actually had me wondering if it was supposed to be that hard or it was that hard because it was Naruto, who had an outsized amount of chakra and hyper ADHD, that I was using as a benchmark for how difficult it would be. I had no idea, and I didn't want to ask Hana-sensei, no cause to make her suspicious. After moments of thinking about it with a leaf casually sticking on my forehead, I decided to challenge myself. More leaves, I decided, would probably make for a more substantial challenge. I got up to go look for another leaf. Og, still doing leaf concentration? A nasally voice said from nearby. That's plain embarrassing. I repressed the urge to sigh and roll my eyes. Ah yes, the classic schoolyard bully. None of my fucking business. I blinked in surprise as this guy just popped up in front of me. Hey, I'm talking to you. I looked around stupidly, before realizing that no, this random was making eye contact with me. What, me? Yeah, you. Who are you? He recoiled at that why. And he growled at me. I'm Hamura, damn it. Hamura. You better remember that. Okay, but what did that have to do with me? I looked at him, utterly confused, but decided not to say it out loud. I didn't want to be too antagonistic. I had no idea what he wanted, or why he was talking to me. What's with that stupid look on your face? The boy asked what was his name. His name? Oh, Hamura. Hamura asked. Did you hear anything I said? What the fuck is going on? I wasn't really paying any attention. Well, pay attention to this. The boy SN Hamura. Hamura. Try not to forget his name. Hamura sneered. Doing leaf concentration at your age? You're absent and now this? You're gonna fail this year. This is year 1 stuff, too basic. You're falling behind. You're gonna be dead last. An awkward silence enveloped us, but I decided not to let it last. Can I go? I checked, pointing at a tree I intended to get a leaf from. He glared at me. Oh, what did I do? TCH, you'll be dead last this year, you cushy team. You and Rockley. He sneered at me and left. I looked after him, utterly confused. What the hell was any of that? Was he trying the old bully routine with me? Where'd he get the time for that? Why me? Was it the whole of what happened the past couple of days? Anyway, I shrugged the whole thing off and went to get a leaf. It was time to get to work. I wanted to exercise, and I wanted to see if I could train while keeping leaf concentration on at the same time. The world was going to end in 7, 8 years, so I had a lot of work to do. It's gonna be a long year, and I gotta get in gear. The kunai. It was the quintessential tool of the shinobi, though perhaps not as iconic as the shuriken. Once a gardening tool, it quickly became popular among assassins for its balance, ease of crafting and maintenance, not to mention how effectively it killed. One to the brain did just as well as any bullet back in my old world, though perhaps not as gory as, say, a 44 or a 50 calories unless elemental manipulation got involved. This was one tool I had to master. This was going to be one of the basic practicals of being a shinobi that I absolutely intended to master by the end of the year. By master, I meant Itachi-style deflection master. I would do that shit every day. The enemies I would have to face would ask for no less. I hefted one, feeling its balance and readying myself to throw it. A shift of the feet, switching to the throwing grip Minato knew, and I focused my chakra onto my right arm, simultaneously rolling it on my torso to support any recoil from the enhanced throw. It wasn't easy, and it took me a couple of seconds to concentrate on getting down pat and making sure the flow stayed in place, but I got it. Then I threw the knife. It launched off fast, significantly faster than the last time, and it hit the target, the blade sinking in nearly to the hilt. No bullseye 4 notches off. Any discomfort from the recoil of my throw was momentary, a result of the movement, and negligible, as expected. So that's how they do it. I grinned. Very good. I readied another, channeling my chakra to my other arm, and threw it again. 6 notches off. Not good, left arm's worse. Practice with both, focus on left. I readied another. Left 7 off. TCH. Right 3 off. Left 6 off. Right 2 off. Left 7 off. Come on. Right 3 off. I stopped, seeing the need to force myself to calm down. No point in getting agitated. Chakra worked at its most efficient when the user was calm. Calate. Calma. Calm. Flowing river, waterfall, breeze on the field, surprisingly satisfying efficient work videos. Calm. I breathed in and out. Right hand readied, I threw the next kunai. Just off the bullseye, so close. Left? 5 off. Not good, but better than the last time. I took out 2, throwing them one after another with an uncontrollable, irrational spasm of anger, one thud after another on the target. 9 off on right, 6 off on right. What the hell? I hissed at myself. Calm down, dumbass. I breathed in, counted to 5, breathed out, breathed in again while counting to 5, held for 4, and released through 4. I repeated the exercise, and while the frown hadn't gone away, the red-hot anger had. Anger can be a weapon, Kratos' words echoed in my head. If you control it, use it. Should your anger be too much to contain, a version of Hashirama once told his brother, then you must make sure that your anger be 3 things. Your rage must be cold, your rage must be reasoned, and your rage must be legendary. Right. So not a moment more of that bullshit. I breathe again, hopefully ridding myself of any remaining vestiges of my anger in my current situation. It simply would not help, and I readied another kunai. A feminine voice cut in, attracting my attention, and I did a double take when I realized it was 10-10 the one and only 10-10, and she was talking to me. Nope. No. Please. I am literally please do not throw another kunai, or I will strangle you and myself. Your hands are in need of an exorcism. I need a priest to help me recover from watching this ungodly insult to the art of Bukijutsu. I can feel the kunai in your hand screaming in fear that you'll do to it what you've done to its brothers and sisters. This is a sad sight, alright? She approached me with a pitying gaze. I honestly just came here to let you know that Hagane-sensei wanted me to let you know that you, missed detention, and while I really don't want to get in trouble with her, she's really scary. Sometimes she cut herself off, working herself up, or trying to calm down from working herself up. It was really hard to tell, and she was talking fucking fast. Can I say it? Say, I'm gonna take that as permission, I'm gonna say it, you are awful at this. She quieted to let those words sink in, and then ranted over anything I could say when I opened my mouth to respond. You don't just suck, you could miss the Hokage monument if the literal freaking third Tsuchikage flew you 5 feet close to it. You couldn't catch a cold with those hands. If it wasn't for the fact that you need this to pass or, approach anything close to your average decent shinobi, I would tell you to quit throwing kunai and just use them for gardening. I honestly cannot allow you to leave before we've had 5 minutes where I at least make sure you're going somewhere on the path towards being below average today, and that'll be an upgrade. Can I talk? As long as you don't tell me it's not that bad, in which case boy I will bitch slap you with the blunt end of my kunai. To underline her threat, she produced a fucking tri-pronged kunai with the flick of her wrist. Where? It's that bad? I winced. The first shinobi war was that bad, she snorted. The second was worse. The third was a shit show until we stepped in and won that shit. This? If any ninja worth their salt could see the way you throw kunai, they wouldn't start the fourth shinobi war. They just tried to do something massively stupid, like collecting all the bijou to fuse them into one absolutely massive beast of a bijou zord so they can place the entire world under a permanent genjutsu for the specific purpose of making sure anything and everything that ever existed forgets any of. How long did this take you? 5 minutes? Make everybody forget that the past 5 minutes existed. It's a miracle that all your kunai actually hit anything. They barely even hit the air, for Kami's sake. Do you have any tips? I asked, if at least to get her to stop freaking roasting me. I get it, Jesus Christ, I suck. You're beating a dead horse. Yes, the future weapons mistress answered flatly. Simple enough. First of all, stop flicking your wrist like that. That's why your aim keeps going off all those notches. How would you do it? In lieu of answering, she threw her kunai at the target, her eyes fixed on me the whole time. I saw and heard the difference, a faint whistle ringing through the air as it traveled so fast I could only watch the moment it hit the target. It hit the bullseye. She did a fucking no-look bullseye. Jesus, no wonder she'd end up on Guy's team. Okay, that's badass, I told her. She gave me a small, cocky smirk, waving me off. Well, it's nothing special. I think this is the baseline of what any ninja could do. I'm gonna do a lot bigger and better than this someday. But you saw how I did it, right? You want to put a little more of your arm into the flick. I find that it gives you more power. Like this. She slowly threw her arm out, flicking her wrist a bit differently from how I did it. Her was stronger, straighter, and involved the arm more than my throw. Mine worked, but only at a basic level. Try it, she told me. I took another kunai out of my pouch, tossing and hefting it for the weight, and recalled her grip and imitated it. Then I threw it the way she did. Straight arm, strong flick. Think, edge of the bullseye. Literally straddled the line between the first notch and the bullseye. Nice. She nodded. That's better. Your grip was a little off, but the throw was much straighter this time. If you practice this every day, given maybe 2 weeks throwing, you can start doing it in your sleep. That's when you can start doing the more advanced stuff and try throwing it in different positions, throw it while you're moving, and try throwing it while you and the target are moving. You won't ever be as good as I am, but you definitely won't end the world by accidentally killing your own comrades. Thanks, Tenten-san, I smiled gratefully. You're welcome. Okay, now show me how you throw your shuriken. I switched pouches, extracted a shuriken, aimed and threw, 2 notches off. Your other hand? 4 notches off. Tenten facepalmed. I rubbed the back of my head sheepishly. Oh, Cammy, looks like we need to work on that too. We may or may not have forgotten that Tenten came to me for a reason. Even despite that she felt guilty about forgetting, she didn't let me leave until she was satisfied that I had a good foundation to work with. Hagane-sensei was not happy. She assigned twice the work on me despite how ridiculously difficult it was. I was crying the entire time. Hagane-sensei was a bitching bitch. From tomorrow, she told me at my first detention 4 days ago, you will commit to an exercise routine I built for you. You will do 300 pull-ups and 350 push-ups. Every single day, twice a day. That will be your baseline, and you will go up from there and do 200 alternating crunches and sit-ups on top of you run and other various exercises I will assign to you. Then 2 weeks later, you will increase each set by 100 each. My eye twitched. Is that even humanly possible? I do 800 of each a day, and I don't whine like you do. You're a freaking adult. I have baby noodle arms compared to you. So did Kakashi Hatake and Itachi Uchiha, and they were jounin. I gaped. She's holding me up to the standards of those monsters? Well, she gave me an amused look. I see you've advanced beyond asking what would happen if you didn't do these exercises. I think I'll leave it to your imagination. The last part she said with a glint in her eyes so unholy that I leaned back in fright despite that she was practicing excellent social distancing. Today, you'll start with a nice and easy 200 on both alt sets. And that was how my life was at the moment. Pure grinding. Lee found me out on day 2 because Hannah sent him my way when she had other shit to do during my detention, and he could only bear to watch for all of 8 seconds before he joined me and blew past my set in 100 seconds, and this dude hadn't even touched a minute of guys training yet. Shit almost made me cry anime tears. 352, 293, 353, 294. I pushed myself up, got on my feet as fast as I could, jumped onto the hang bar over my head, and forced my arms to work my body up the bar. Simultaneous sets of alternating push-ups and pull-ups, going well over 100 beyond what Minato was used to. 200? Yup, that was one way to get it done. Woman was a taskmaster, and had no fucks to give about a poor boy's growing body. She also did not like the fact that I missed about half my detention the previous day. Didn't even put the blame on Tenten despite the fact that she was the biggest reason I got even more sidetracked. On the bright side, at least my throwing technique had a foundation to get substantially better than before. Keep going, Minato-kun. Lee encouraged. Doing his own set, he was supposed to watch over me, but he decided to join in the routine alongside me instead. I honestly lost count on his part, and he wasn't counting. I could tell he was feeling the burn, too. He was coated in a sheen of sweat. You're almost there. Let's push ourselves to the limits. Almost there, I grunted, letting myself drop down so I could push up again. 356. Up, up. I leapt and grabbed the bar, if only just. 297. Back down, push up. 3557, 290. I ate 358, 290 NNN. 350 NNN. 300, 360. I grunted as I fell on the ground, and forced myself to get up into a sitting position after letting myself catch 3% of my breath. Recovery time? I checked with Lee, who was almost done, then dropped onto his bum too when he was. I know he thought about it. I think 30 seconds? Good enough for me. I panted. Here. Lee tossed me a bottle of water. Thanks, Lee-san. I took a long draft from the water bottle, letting out a relieved sigh when the cool liquid did my body some huge favor. Your renewed passion is amazing to see these days, Minato-kun, Lee complimented. I've never seen you so motivated in all the years we've been here. Yeah, well, sometimes we just need a kick in the butt to get us moving. Lee nodded at that, and we fell into a short silence. Do you know that I found myself disliking you sometimes? Lee asked, out of nowhere. My eyes widened and I turned to the thick-browed kid. Wow, really? He raised his hands. And no, don't get me wrong, it was never anything big. I just really didn't like seeing how you squandered your potential, see? How do I explain this? No, I get it. I nodded. I get it. On a purely physical level, there were 5 civilian-born or orphans that were a decent clip ahead of everyone else barring the clan-born. Tenten, Rock Lee, Heihachi Takan, Jin Yuki, no apparent relation to Haku, and myself. I was in the last cat of that particular branch, pretty much in the same way that Tottenham Hotspurs was the weakest of the big 6 of the Premier League, but even then, Minato had a reasonably strong body, not very good taijutsu but still some good physical prowess for an orphan. Perhaps one of my parents was a ninja, but thanks to Obito, I'd never know. Insert obligatory fuck Obito message. Either way, I could see what Lee was getting at. Minato was really middle of the road as far as his skill went. Average theory, average taijutsu, Average ninjutsu before I came in, average Bukijutsu, average everything. From what I was deducing with each day passing, a lot of people held some disdain for Minato because he had some notable potential. But until I came into his body, he followed up on, and yeah, you could guess how much here, right? Yeah, that's right, he achieved pretty much fuck all on it. No matter how much each teacher poked and prodded at him, he was passive-aggressive and just did enough to technically satisfy, and always stayed out of trouble. Just a non-entity. Middle of the pack. One face among thousands. That after, according to what I'd seen of his old report cards, coming within a hair of top 5 on the second year, after which he dropped off sharply to the middle, where he'd stayed to this day against all odds. Honestly, looking at it that way, it was little wonder that Higane-sensei gleefully latched onto the power detention gave her to push me and gave me as much work to do as I had. Honestly though, I had no idea why they didn't just manipulate Minato into excelling anyway, but perhaps it was a peacetime thing. I mean, look at Shikamaru and Nara. He was the freaking son of the clan head, but he slacked off in class like there was no tomorrow, and no point in passing. Sure, it worked out for him, he became the Hokage's shadow, married Temari, and had a smart cookie for a kid. That, or they didn't think he was worth the trouble. I get it, I nodded. Slacked off for almost 2 years, wasting my life with advantages you didn't have. I had a shot at top 5 once, but look at me now. Yeah. I nodded again. Yeah, I really do get it. I just woke up one day and realized if I fail, well, I'm screwed. I'm a civvy orphan, and I'd have to go back to civilian school and catch up to 4 years of material before I could get anywhere in life. I shook my head. I told myself, nah. I'm not going out like that. So I decided to push as hard as I could and at least get somewhere within somewhere at the end of the year. And I'll get there, even if I have to work myself to death. Yosh! Lee grinned, leaping to his feet and offering me a hand. Let's work hard, Minato-kun, I grinned, taking his hand and getting up. Heck yeah, let's do this. Later that night, I went home with a bag of leaves, utterly exhausted on a physical level but still determined to get some training in before I went to sleep. I stuck 2 leaves on my forehead, adhering them there with my chakra, then I ran through each of the 12 zodiac hand seals without trying to need chakra through my body to enact any sort of jutsu into being. Ram. Rat. Tiger. Snake. Horse. Monkey. Boar. Bird. Ox. Dog. Hare. Dragon. I went over them again. Ram. Rat. Tiger. Snake. Horse. Monkey. Boar. Bird. Ox. Dog. Hare. Dragon. Again faster. I fucked up at bird, muscle memory conflicting between the way Minato did it and the way I did it. I shook my head. I was better off building muscle memory than trying to fuck it up by going too fast, I told myself. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Fast is deadly. I went through them again, in a different order. Snake. Boar. Monkey. Rat. Dragon. Bird. Tiger. Horse. Ram. Ox. Hare. Dog. Hare. Dragon. Snake. Ram. Monkey. Ram. Ox. Horse. Boar. Rat. Bird. I paused, letting the leaves drop off my head. A random thought came into my head. I remembered a specific result coming as a consequence of a specific action I watched once and researched and practiced thousands of times when I was young, an action done by a 7-year-old. I impulsively reenacted it, gathering and focusing chakra around my lungs, inhaling deeply as I created a chain of 6 specific hand seals. Snake. Ram. Monkey. Boar. Horse. Tiger. A great warmth built up in my lungs, and I felt my chakra swirl and flow with each seal, molding and building power with the direction of each hand seal. An apotheosis of raw, scorching, majestic power populated itself within my pulmonary system, and all I had to do was let it out. And now, Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, I exhaled, smoke, then I coughed. I hacked and coughed as if I'd accidentally inhaled cigar smoke, my lungs protesting my every moment of existence. My coughing fit was so severe I could scarcely mount the concentration to put up the necessary hand seal ram and disrupt my chakra, dissipating the focused chakra in my lungs and restoring normal flow. The tight discomfort went away almost instantaneously, and I purged my lungs once more. Okay. I coughed. Maybe we should walk before we can run. Don't fucking do that again. Not to mention, I think I didn't quite put enough chakra in that, anyway. And imagine trying that fucking jutsu in your own living fucking room. The utter fucking bollocks on you, you incipient moron. Fucking lucky you didn't kill myself doing that, Yano. 5 minutes of a hoarse voice and smaller, lingering coughs later, I checked everything out. I hadn't felt any actual pain, only severe discomfort that went away those minutes later. Running chakra through my lung area revealed no form of pain. It was possible that I hadn't been hurt by the accidental case of what might have been smoke, or concentrated pseudo-fire chakra. I decided to start with the basics. Tomorrow, I resolved, I'd have to bite into my stipends, get a mirror. Full body. I would start with Henge. And I would study the shit out of every seal. First though, I sat in Seiza, keeping 2 leaves on my head. I called my chakra seallessly and it came out, and I put my hand in the ram seal, the seal of focus. I wanted to study how it moved through my body. I wanted to know it, to know how it flowed through my body, to know every last one of the 361 tenketsu in my body. I wanted to feel everything, for how would I gain control over my chakra if I did not make the effort to study it? It was certainly an interesting experience. It was like being perfectly aware of every flowing liquid inside one's body, and somehow able to manipulate it somewhat with the power of sheer will and physical movement. Being that chakra was made of a combination of physical and spiritual energy, it needed focus and movement in order to bring out its maximum potential and efficiency. A focused, calm mind sharpened the quality of one's chakra, and well-formed hand seals helped mold the chakra to its best form and wasted less chakra as a result. Of course, it was entirely possible to use one hand or none to achieve the same effect with one's chakra. Such was a sign of an incredibly focused, incredibly powerful or skilled ninja at work. If not the former due to my circumstances, I absolutely aimed to be the latter. To walk that path, I needed perfect chakra control, that not a modicum of any chakra I used would come to waste, so I could last much longer than I had any right to in any battle. To achieve perfect chakra control, I had to understand how my chakra worked. To understand how my chakra worked, I needed to study, to hone my mind, and to exercise extensively, to hone my body. I walked up to Hagane-sensei, a day after my failed fireball, and knowingly asked her to push the motherfuck out of me in every way possible, every single day in which I was not to rest. We came to a simple arrangement. I can't do that after the 2-week deficit is over, Yakushi, she told me, giving me a meaningful tilt of her head. I have to give all my students time within normal class periods as much as I would have to give you time in order to do that. Anything I could show you to do, you would have to do during class and during your own time. You also understand that any extra lessons I would give you could only be done with black marks on your record. I nodded, understanding the assignment perfectly. Fuck you, Hagane. Her eyebrows went up for a second at my unhesitant acceptation/insult. Not what I would have gone with, but very well. You have 7 weeks of detention, Yakushi. Understood, sensei. With that, extra lessons were secured. To understand how my chakra worked, I needed to understand the appropriate movement and flow, the flow of my chakra when I wasn't using it, the flow of my chakra when I was, and the flow of my chakra when I was activating any technique. To understand that, I needed to understand and master hand seals. That would be my first step, and it was certainly a very interesting first step. Over the course of 2 weeks, among everything else I did, I gathered watered-down notes from second-year theory, combining what they taught us and what little content the Academy Library, and Hagane-sensei, offered on that particular subject with what I'd known from my exhaustive study of Naruto lore in order to put together a theoretical, somewhat incomplete but interesting picture of how the basic 12 seals worked. Ram, the seal of focus, and the premier seal of chakra molding made my chakra much more distinct to my proprioception and thus easier to manipulate and direct its flow, with subsequent seals resulting in different effects. Manipulation would include a wide variety of effects, from simply calling the chakra out, to disrupting chakra flow to break genjutsu, to detonating explosive tags or daidoras clay bombs. Tiger rubbed the chakra together, so to speak, creating a frictional force where the user gathered any chakra, from which a chain could build a katan or dotan technique, or refine it to its final form, as in the case of Gokakyu, where the first tiger seal converted the chakra into a more flammable version in the lungs, and the second refined the entire mold and readied the technique. That was where I'd failed. I hadn't built up enough chakra to convert it properly into katan. It was C rank for a reason, hence the smoke, which, other than the thankfully brief smoke in my lungs, seemed to have done no damage due to how little there was. It remained converted chakra, but the moment it exited my body was when it would or should have turned into actual fire, hence why it was a simple matter to dispel it by using chakra disruption/genjutsu release. Dragon or bird compressed the chakra, and moving on to the next chain would either compress the air in the user's lungs, or adapt the chakra to be more malleable when expelled from the body in order to affect the atmosphere much more effectively. Snake compressed and spooled the chakra, creating multiple nodes and points in which to create a faux circuit, or a board of layered, hardening chakra, a foundation on which other seals would build the effect the user wanted in order to achieve a dotan or right-on technique. It was possibly a relatively simple seal to cut for right-on, since most right-on techniques I'd seen did not need the snake seal, but the understanding of how it worked to create those effects through endless practice. The Chidori was one such example, where a novice user would need a chain of 3 hand seals ox, hare, and monkey, but the full chain, theoretically, for anyone in use to converting chakra to lightning nature without needing a seal, would be ram, snake, ox, hare, and monkey. Ox, monkey, boar, horse, and hare were seals of refinement, each achieving the same result in different ways that had different effects. Horse layered and widened the chakra, somewhat more so than snake, and in a way that was better suited to all elemental and non-elemental jutsu than snake, which gave more power to any technique. It was that specific seal that put the grand fireball. Monkey accelerated and smoothed the flow of chakra, additionally easing the internal effects of converted chakra to the point where it wouldn't damage the body in any way at all. Ox also did something similar, with its effects much better used on more exotic techniques, like internally generated Katon, Right-dun, Futon, and Doton chakra, as well as medical chakra, though that likely depended on the user since I'd only ever seen Ox used once on the mystical palm. Hair concentrated converted chakra, increasing its quality that it might match the likes of C rank and above jutsu, or hardened concentrated chakra even further, and was an excellent way to refine converted chakra to bring the maximum amount of quality out of the chakra mold, akin to metal handled by a master smith. Dog was a Swaiton conversion seal, and in addition also smoothed the flow of chakra and refined it, like a combined equivalent of ox and boar. The immense, water-like quality of its refinement also likely served well on some seriously exotic techniques where Fuinjutsu also played a part, like the summoning technique in which the seals were boar, dog, bird, monkey and ram, in addition to calling forth a complex seal formula and a blood sacrifice to facilitate the severance of spacetime to create a spatial shortcut for the summoned object or animal to travel through. Fuinjutsu would not be my forte, especially not spacetime Fuinjutsu. I had a headache trying to figure out how the flying fuck those seals broke the laws of astrophysics and did things that could only be thoroughly and successfully replicated and objectively studied by a late-stage Type 2 and 3+ civilization. There was a reason the likes of Minato Namikaze, Tobarama Senju, Jiraiya, Kushina, Mito and by extension the entire Uzumaki clan were so feared. They had minds I did not for that kind of shit. Whether Naruto, too, did well. That was something I'd have to try to find out sometime. Rat was not quite universally understood, though it was noted that it was a preferred hand seal for the Nara's Shadow Hijitsu and, interestingly, quite a few genjutsu. A niggling theory I had in my mind was that it had something to do with the yin/mental side of the jutsu, though I did wonder what its yang equivalent was. Boar, perhaps? Or snake? It did explain why the Nara were so lazy, though, and why their shadow jutsu were usually so weak. Their chakra balance was more than likely heavily attuned towards yin release, which gave them much more mental prowess, though in a different direction than, say, the Yamanaka, but at the cost of their physical abilities. There was something they would have to work on in order to make their yang balance on their shadow jutsu stand out more and have more and real physical effects, such as pretty much everything anyone had seen shadow techniques do in various other media, like that Shikamaru lookalike, who also used shadow techniques from Fairy Tail. Though, honestly, the Nara knew their own jutsu better than I did, and I didn't want to risk any troublesome shit if I tried coming to them with my theories, varying from dismissive laughter to outright hostility. No, thank you, I wouldn't know, but I was determined to and working on thoroughly studying the effect of each seal on the way I molded, so that I could replicate it without needing to use all the seals. It would be a long, difficult road, but one I was perfectly willing to undertake. The best way to do that would be through thorough, intrinsic understanding of my chakra. Tobarama had done it, after all. How else could he take a 44 seal jutsu and cut all that shit down to only 4 hand seals? If he could and no, he didn't have Otsutsuki bullshit backing him up as much as it did his brother, then so could I. I may not be a genius, but I was an out-of-context problem. I would succeed. My first feat on that end would be the Academy 3, and I was sure to do at least the henge at the end of February, at the very least. January was a demanding month. On top of a ridiculous amount of theory practice, physical exercise and Bukijutsu practice, every single day consisted of consistent, constant, ceaseless practice to master my 12 basic hand seals, that I might call on many and any, in any order. I studied the effect of each seal, trying to imitate its exact effects with chakra control alone, but I wasn't making great progress. I determined that it was because I didn't have the level required for it yet, so I'd have to start tree walking, perhaps around February if not the end of it. My path to perfecting chakra control took me towards extensive practice of basic leaf concentration over 2 weeks, sticking leaves on my head and various parts of my body. I could stick 7 leaves on almost any part of my body without resorting to focusing my chakra with the ram seal, though any further and I had to. I was working on that. The second stage to leaf concentration, created by me, was item concentration, where any random object had to be stuck anywhere on the body with chakra. Paper was the easiest, steel and my eraser the hardest. 2 further weeks to do other tasks while using the concentration exercises. Concentration while running, concentration while going through taijutsu kata, concentration while writing, concentration while resting my body on my bed. But it was not good enough. It was only the beginning. With the end of January came the first aptitude test. Once every single month, there would be one of them, to gauge the students' progress and show them where they needed work. In addition, every 4 months, there would be a main exam, each with significantly important results, and that would affect whether a student would pass or not. Knowledge, the written test. Ninjutsu, the 3 graduate D-rank ninjutsu. Taijutsu, where you were pitted against one classmate and your aptitude on the level of your peer tested. I failed the first aptitude test. Passed knowledge at 71%, so, not very good, failed the rest. My henge I henged into Rock Lee, with whom I'd spent the most time, was good, with some small details off. The edge of his collar and sleeves was a dark navy, not black. My kawarimi and bunshin were okay, but not good enough to take to the field, and my opponent was Jin Yuki. Lazy Minato, he drawled as we made the seal of confrontation. How will you do this time? Hana bade us to fight, and I decided to let Jin have the initiative, settling into a ready stance. I studied his body as best as I could, avoiding eye contact, and waited, letting him come to me. He seemed to be of the same mind, holding the starting stance in a mirror of mine. I pretended to relax just a hair, and he perked up, seeing opportunity, and charged in. He started with a high jab at my face, where I closed up and deflected, then blocked his other punch. He reared back and made to grab at my hand to initiate a grapple. I pulled away and hopped back, letting him miss that and his subsequent low kick at my shins. He grinned, seeing some opportunity in my pullaways, and leapt in for a leaping hook kick. Odd choice, I thought, sidestepping to my right and giving me brief access to his back. I moved in as soon as he landed, and jabbed powerfully at his liver. He grunted and froze, then I swept his feet out under him. Liver punch, people. Always try the liver punch. Always works. With that, I won the encounter, as I had been deemed in the perfect position to end him. My overall grade was 63%, due to my average marks at ninjutsu, and 70% was considered the passing mark. Unacceptable, Hana-sensei commented with a disappointed shake of her head. Study, Yakushi. Improve yourself. Everything I've given you is more than enough. What do I need to work on? I asked. She sighed, and recalled the way I did everything. Your taijutsu still needs work, so keep practicing. Your ninjutsu is the most important grade. If you cannot master such basic jutsu, according to the syllabus, you will not be a good ninja. You're already halfway through, so it's only a matter of training. Do that every day. Your physical prowess is increasing, keep that up. It's only a matter of time and commitment. Do that. You understand? I understand, sensei. I expect you to pass your ninjutsu, if not by February then by March. If you cannot pass even then, our arrangement ends and your chances of failure in the first exam will be even higher. Do you understand? Yes, sensei. I won't disappoint you. You will on February. But do not the month after. It took me 9 weeks from January to catch up to 4 years of ninja theory, history and tactics, because I wasn't lucky enough to inherit all the memories and skills of Minato Yakushi. Lucky fucking me. It took me 3 weeks to acclimate myself to my exercise, where I pushed myself to the point of exhaustion every day except Sunday, and the academy nurse healed the micro tears in my muscles with healing pulse. I hadn't shown much in the way of results yet, though perhaps that was because I was comparing myself to the best, and they outclassed me by a massive margin since they were putting as much effort into their work as I was. I exercised every single day, kunai and shuriken throwing under leaf concentration, non-contact taijutsu spars with Lee under leaf concentration, which we found out he could do, 2, hand seal practice to the point of exhaustion, and honing my ability with the academy. 3. February, I failed the second aptitude test. Knowledge, ninjutsu, taijutsu. Knowledge, 79%, everything else, fail. Overall grade, 69%, good henge, workable bunshin, but ultimately let down by the kawarimi and being matched up with Niji Hyuga, who pretty much beat me near to a bruised pile of flesh, even if I gave him 5 seconds of a fight compared to the last time. The examiners had no fucks to give. They wanted nothing more than a perfect score in practical ninjutsu, and only getting 2/3 of it somewhat right was a massive black mark on my exam. Hana had no words, only some measure of contempt and that whole I told you so vibe. I had no words, only anger. I was becoming better with each passing day. But it was not good enough. I had to work much, much harder. So fuck it, I decided, I'm gonna start tree walking proper. And I'm gonna tree walk the shit out of it. Adding tree walking on top of everything else was ridiculous. I almost regretted it. First of all, I already had a lot of work to do. For simple perspective, here was one day without me adding tree walking on top of everything. 5:30 a.m. I woke up, feeling a little rested, but my muscles still had some small lingering ache from the activities of the previous day. I went through my ablutions, went over my notes, ate some breakfast, and at 6:45, I was gone and headed to the academy. 7:02-05, I arrived, fully intending to do some warm-ups before class would begin. I went over those alongside Lee, and beginning from February, 10:10 every now and then for an hour, and then went to assembly at 7:50, then 8 o'clock, classes began. Except the final year was nothing like conventional classes, see, because we were supposed to know everything we'd been taught for the past 3 years, see why it was so important for me to go over all those years of knowledge again, and therefore each day Hagane-sensei spent grilling us over and over again with historical questions, mathematical questions, tactics, mental situational exercises, and more on theory while I used a grip strengthener Hagane-sensei had given me at some point in my detention in the middle of her drills. Then we took a break at 11 o'clock, and 11:45 called for our return to class, upon which Hagane-sensei pulled us out to the field, drilling us through warm-ups, kunai and shuriken throws, leaf concentration, and ninjutsu and taijutsu practice until 1400 hours, after which everyone left school, except Lee and I stayed behind, deciding to go through even more exercises under the subtly watchful eye of Hana Hagane, going through various strength exercises with my friend and partner, jogs, more Bukijutsu, log punching and kicking, which fucking hurt, and me practicing ninjutsu while Lee practiced his stealth. Every time he made any sort of noise, then I, using Loki chakra-enhanced hearing, would throw a stone at him. It helped sharpen my aim, and it helped that he did not allow himself to dodge, saying that the pain motivated him to do better at trying to sneak up on me. So far, March 15th, we'd done that exercise 26 times over the course of 30 days, and he had only caught me 4 times. He hadn't quite figured out that that was how I was doing it, but that was fine, because the challenge of trying to catch me unawares perfectly simulated trying the same thing with a more advanced ninja than either of us. Our training session went on until 1700 hours, and only because we both had to get home or stop along the slowing market, arranging some food to go for the night with before the market closed up. We usually visited the academy nurse before going to the market, who gave us a healing pulse each with a shake of her head, and we moved on afterwards. After that, home time, and for me, more studying, chakra experimentation, and trying to increase the speed of my hand seals until I went to sleep. I was getting better, taking only a second and a half at least, according to Hagane-sensei, to chain together the 3 hand seals required for Henge and Bunshin, and 2.5 for Kawarimi, which required 5. Now then, to multiply that route by 6, for the 6 days we went to the academy. Then multiply that by 26 days. 624 hours, and each and every one was packed ridiculously tight with exhaustive training, every goddamn day but Sunday, and even then, I stuck to studying. No freaking wonder I hadn't really practiced tree walking before all that. I was busy enough as it was. Naruto was bullshit. Naruto with his shadow clone training method was utter bullshit. I knew I most likely did not have the reserves to make even one measly clone, because I didn't have enough to do anything with a fireball beyond producing a pathetic plume of smoke, and therefore I could not risk trying to produce one clone. I'd probably actually suffer from chakra exhaustion, as would my clone, probably, then I wouldn't be able to actually do any training, to say nothing of the feedback from the clone dispelling, which I didn't exactly have a biju in my gut to mitigate. There was only one solution. Loath as I was to admit it, if I had 1 additional hour for the day, I could possibly achieve tree walking, but at a pace too slow for my liking. Maybe I could put another hour to it after school. So, out of the 624 hours, I could likely get an additional 26 hours of training if I woke up an hour earlier and trained, and possibly even 52 with added after school time. More even, I figured, if maybe I do just a little bit of training on Sunday. 1 hour tops. Rest for the rest of the day. So I decided, let's put that to the test. I cleared one wall, went to bed, blanketed up, and went to sleep. March 2nd. I woke up at 4:30, warmed up, and spooled my chakra, now used to simply channeling it through my body without needing to call it up with the ram seal. I did not have a tree handy inside my apartment, which was a pity, so the wall would do. I focused on directing my chakra towards my feet, not enough to do anything with it but just to get my chakra ready to use there, and walked towards the wall. I put my right foot up on the wall, relaxed, and channeled more chakra to my right foot, all the way to the soles of my feet. My eyes widened as an interesting sensation took place. A ton of surprisingly painless pinpricks burst out of my feet, and I felt my chakra actually clutch onto the wall. Is this how Peter Parker feels every time he runs up a wall? I wondered. I pulled away, trying to keep my chakra stubbornly bonded to the wall at the same time. My first attempt was a failure. My mind was set on the decision of letting go of the wall, and my chakra thus went with it. I tried a second time, and met the same result. I hummed as I considered the problem. I may have to try and see if could multitasking work? It could. I do have to try to move my foot away while also trying to stick my foot onto the wall at the same time. Gotta use the seal. I didn't want to, but I can't exactly run up the wall, it's not that tall. Before you run, walk. Before you walk, stand. Before you stand, crawl. Take your training one thing at a time. For now, my goal for the end of the hour is to stand exactly at 90 degrees to the wall. To do that, I have to learn to stick, then I have to learn to support myself. Ram it is. I brought the seal together, and my chakra burst into brilliant awareness, and I tried once more, to move my foot off the wall and keep it there purely with chakra adhesion. My third attempt failed, but it was much better than the first 2 times. Instead of stonewall failure, I felt a moment of magnetic resistance before I pulled my foot off the wall. Progress. My 4th attempt was much better. I almost ripped off the drywall with how much effort I needed to pull my foot off. I did have 5 seconds of panic there, thoroughly inspecting my wall for any potential damage that I might have to report to the Konoha Orphan Trust Association, which would get a chunk eaten out of my stipend as a fine and partly payment for the property damage. Thankfully, there was nothing. I decided to test my right foot for the same, and it was easy enough to do after a couple of attempts to acclimate channeling adhesive chakra to my right foot. That was step 1 accomplished. Step 2, both at the same time. I took a breath, putting my left foot up and, with a ram, adhering it to the wall. Then, with a grunt, I hopped my other foot off, simultaneously focusing my chakra to it and landing it on the wall. I had a momentary slip down, But it was a problem easily solved by just a bit more chakra. Remember, I told myself, visualizing the reminder in my head, accelerator control. The more you put your foot down, the faster it goes, the more chakra you use. Just enough to suit my, I yelped, my concentration slipping with my feet. Thankfully, I was only a couple feet off the wall, and landing on my feet was cake. Okay. Let's try this again. My second attempt was a bit more successful, but maintaining the same level of chakra was channeled to my feet, and ensuring that it adhered to the wall was the real issue, not to mention having to contend with the incredible level of strain it took to keep myself stuck to the wall. I wasn't even in a perfectly horizontal position, so it was really insane how much I needed in order to stay there. My third attempt went the same with my fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th, 15th. Okay, enough. Super, hold the fuck up. What the fuck am I doing wrong? I wondered. Haven't I mastered item concentration? I know the muscle strain plays a significant part here, but why else is it so difficult to remain stuck on the wall? Is it the angle? Is it the fact that I'm not moving? I turned over the tree walking training scenes in my head. Kakashi had bidden his genin to run up the trees, marking their progress with kunai. The moment they made it all the way to the top, then what? Maybe there's a good reason Kakashi had them run up and down the tree instead of walking then running? I mean, I remember he did walk, but he told them to run, I think. Unless that shit was fanon, but either way, the end result was he walked, they ran. Am I overcomplicating things? Or is it really that I have to use a backwards method to master it instead? Let me try again, one more time, confirm maybe if I change up the flow of my chakra, we'll see what happens. I called my chakra to being and weaved 2 seals, holding the last. Monkey. Ram, then I stepped on the wall. My eyes widened when I noticed it came surprisingly easier then, and I held myself there for another 5 seconds, 10, 20, 30, 40, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. I bucked under the insane strain and fell. It was significantly longer than I'd managed previously, but I still fell. Okay. I nodded as I lied down, letting my muscles recover from the workout. I get it. Even with my chakra flows smoothed out, I still slip from a standing position. The strain is too much, and it makes my concentration slip and take my feet with it. So maybe the real solution is that I have to run before I can walk. If I run, I force my body to adapt to releasing and rerouting chakra to the surface in quick order. My eyes widened in realization. It makes sense. The slower I can go up and down the tree, means the better my grip, means the better my control. And water walking takes it to a whole different level, because the constant chakra streaming and adjustments would demand more strain from my chakra and a higher level of chakra control at the same time. If I just stand, my grip weakens, I'm not used to it, and I clearly don't have my muscle strength adapted to it yet. Maybe I can, if I focus on running first and slowing down after to increase the strain until it's second nature to walk, then I can really, genuinely master this. Conclusion: this is one method I have to master in reverse. Fast, then slow. Okay, I'm definitely gonna need a tree for this, then. Shit, the alarm bell rang. Or Elisan, I called, on our daily warm-up routine. Wanna see something cool? What is it? He asked. Check it out. I rolled my shoulders and gently kicked out, limbering myself up. Then I tensed, feet sliding to a ready stance to run, and my chakra swirled around to my legs. I held up a half-rammed seal, gaining great awareness of my chakra, and ran at a nearby tree. My heart trembled a little when I took off a bit faster than I expected and anticipated, but I managed. Chakra on my legs means chakra on my muscles means more power means faster movement. Should have expected it, to be honest. Awesome. With a small grin, I made it to the base of the tree, completed the ram seal, and leapt to the trunk. I made 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steps up to the nearest branch, from where I kicked off the trunk and landed on the branch. It was much easier than I anticipated. I was right. Meta-knowledge analysis for the win. I grinned at the new view, and the sight of Lee gaping up at me. But I didn't stay up for long. Instead, I ran back down, which was faster and scarier, enough that I decided to leap off 10 feet from the ground, instinctively performing a front flip and ending my trip in the air with a slightly rough front dive roll, dissipating the kinetic energy with previously practiced ease. Yeah, I definitely have to practice my parkour again. But imagine, chakra-enhanced parkour. Yeah, I would definitely practice my parkour again. Haha. I grinned, brushing some imaginary dirt off my shoulder. That was a mostly clean dive. Loved it. Man, I told them. I told my parents the parkour would pay off for me. Okay, but they were technically kinda right since I didn't use it that much because my country didn't have a lot of useful spaces to parkour on. But I was still right, and it paid off for me even if it was in another life. Anyway, Lee was a bit more excited about it than I was. Yo, he exclaimed. How did you do that? What, the climb, the run down, or the landing? I smirked, trying to keep it cool. All of it. He gesticulated wildly. Everything. I figured out a new exercise. I blurted out happily, unable to contain my excitement. So I was doing item concentration, right? He nodded. That was a story I'd had on the ready for a while to explain my tree climbing ability. And I'm thinking to myself that yes, it's an important control exercise and I'm getting really good with it since I can stick other items to me. But is it really the key to ninja becoming stronger and faster? So I had to really think about the next step, then I came up with this idea. If we can use chakra to stick things to ourselves, why can't we use chakra to stick ourselves to other things? Lee scrunched his brows for a couple seconds, but when he took the time to think about it and it clicked, his eyes lit up in this amazing way. Oh, I see. If you do that, then you could move yourself up walls, or trees like this. Yeah, exactly. I nodded. And it's really challenging and difficult to do. I'm thinking if I can master this stuff, maybe I can do it while also doing leaf concentration and item concentration at the same time, so I can take my chakra control to insane levels. Though I'm not sure why it's easier to run up and down surfaces than to walk. Maybe I'll ask Hagane-sensei. Maybe I'll answer, the devil we spoke of said from behind us, scaring the shit out of us both. Gah! Lee and I yelled, jumping away from her on instinct. Interesting discovery, Yakushi, the short-haired scary teacher went on with this air of absolute nonchalance, and your creativity is definitely commendable. Not many academy students have thought of anything like that. I was only joking when I said I would hold you up to the standards of the likes of Uchiha Itachi and Hatake Kakashi, but it seems perhaps I was on to something with that idea after all. My eyebrow twitched. Oh God, what have I done? To answer your question, tree walking practice, and it is indeed a real technique, is a very strenuous exercise. The more you hang onto a surface with your chakra without moving, the more you feel the burn in your legs and your core. Inversely, the more you can do so, the better your control, since you have to use your chakra to not only stick to the tree, but to also support your leg and core muscles as you stand. Usually, it's recommended that whoever tries this for the first time has to run, and the reason for that is because it builds the strain over time and at a reasonable pace. In addition, it encourages the user to adjust their chakra to stick and unstick on the fly, also subconsciously supporting themselves while doing it. I nodded, casting my eyes about in a thoughtful manner. I knew it. It does make sense. So the slower I can move on the surface, the better my control. And the stronger you are in a physical sense, Hana finished. Very good. I expect great things of you, Yakushi Rock. Keep warming yourselves up. Assembly will be in 30 minutes. You are definitely on course to pass the first exam at this rate. Work harder. Then she vanished. Lee and I slowly turned our heads to each other. Dude. That I whispered. Was he continued. Awesome. Good. Tenten nodded as I threw my last kunai. 10 throws, 7 bullseyes, the rest only one notch off or straddling the first notch, and the bullseye all 3 thrown from my left hand. All of them rated debilitating/severe, as they sunk to the hilt. That's the way. Keep practicing that, and you should definitely be ready for the more advanced stuff, like throwing more than one at once. Fun fact, given Tenten's natural mastery of thrown weapons, Hagane-sensei allowed/volunteered her for assistant teaching/studying the art of Bukijutsu with the others. It was fun at times, though she did grind on the nerves of some of the students. Envy and all that. Great, I nodded. I was beginning to really understand why my kunai throws were wrong. It wasn't that I was or wasn't flicking my wrist, I was simply over-exaggerating that flick, which threw the aim off slightly, and I didn't have any chakra before the Hyuga doctor did me a solid. And considering the distance and the weakness of my throw, it was, as she said, a bloody miracle that all of them hit the target before she noticed the flaws in my technique and improved them. Thanks for the tips, Tenten-san. You're improving insanely fast these days, Tenten nodded. It's good to see the old you finally making a comeback. I grunted in protest, idly spinning a shuriken in my hand. Was I really that bad? Well, more surprising than bad, really, Tenten stammered. I don't mean any offense, really, it's just you used to be one of our best students in the second year. Then all of a sudden your performance is dropping, your grades are dropping, you're not really competing to stay in the top 10, never mind the top 6, you don't seem interested in pushing yourself as hard as you used to, she shrugged. You know? What happened? Reality. I shrugged. I got a reality check. If I fail this year, that's it for me, innit? I'd have to restudy and reacquaint myself with civilian stuff that all 8 to 12-year-olds know already. Cammy knows how long it'd take me to get caught up when I could be doing better stuff. Instead, I'm a nobody. Where would I start? Where would I go? At least, as a ninja, I have a known path. I have a set path. Genin, Chunin, Jounin, whatever lies ahead. So I had to give a damn. I glared at the targets, burning with determination. And I'll give a damn all the way to the end. Good, she smiled, patting my shoulder. Hope we'll see you up there at the end of the year, Detention Boy. That's a bad nickname, and you know it. Can you blame me? You certainly earned that nickname. Okay, yeah, I did, but that doesn't mean. No, you earned it. We'll put that topic to rest. No, come on, that's unfair. It took me 23 days to halfway master tree walking. It was honestly technically somewhere closer to the span of around 59 to 69 hours, but it did me a massive boon of favors. The fact that I was always stringently working on my chakra control and understanding my seals really helped ease the difficulty of the exercise. All I had to do was sustain my slower movement for longer periods of time, and all I had to do to that end was practice, build my muscle. The benefit it had in building the strength in my legs and core wasn't all that fast, but it was definitely noticeable. My kicks had more snap to them. Each kick I delivered to the log was becoming more destructive 16 days down the line, and I was starting to notice some serious musculature on me. I had a six-pack, for fuck's sake. I had Cristiano Ronaldo's legs. I used to be a one-pack brother even when I played rugby in high school. Hana-sensei had given me an idea during one of my detentions as it became easier to tree walk. Sure, I decided a long time ago that spidey crawling was not super effective, even if it did let me live my boyhood/manhood dreams, but thanks to her, I could bring some form of it back to life. And no, it was definitely not as good as it sounded. So instead of walking perfectly horizontally, I decided to hand walk up the tree. That's right, I walked up the tree using nothing but splayed hands/clenched fists, my body hanging out as horizontally as I could in relation to the ground. It was a fucking nightmare. My body still shook with the unreal effort I needed to keep my body horizontal, even with my arms and upper body supported by chakra, and a whole week and a half into this exact exercise to boot. While I could admit that, on a technical level, it was easier to use my hands to climb than just my feet, using my hands alone was an absolute slobberknocker on my body. I could only, so far, keep it up for about 3 minutes before the strain overcame me. Honestly, it was an insane level of gain considering that a week and a half ago, I could only go for a minute at my absolute best before it was too much. 10 more seconds. Me. Nah. 2. Kun. Lee called out, punctuating each syllable with a punch on the pole. His fists were a bit bloody, but the pole itself was in slightly worse condition. I was so focused on the exercise that I couldn't answer back, but he knew I heard him. I held on for those 10 seconds, and at the mark, I finally let my body swing back down onto the tree, grasping it with most of my body. The relief was instantaneous, and so damn good I almost let go of the tree and fell. Oof, I panted. Oh, Cammy. This is insane. I know. Lee punched on. But it's worth it, right? Absolutely, my dude. Everything for the grind and all that. I turned around and decided to practice another control exercise, tree walking, but instead of trying to stick to the tree, I had to slide down. I was trying to find the fine point to straddle between sticking to the tree and not sticking to the tree, which would let me slide down the tree at a tightly controlled pace. The key, obviously, was chakra control. It was a work in progress. I landed roughly, having to roll to disperse the excess kinetic energy. And Lee? What the? Lee was nowhere to be seen. Huh. I subconsciously chained the monkey and ram's seal, focusing chakra on my ears. Couldn't see him. Not a peep on my ears that wasn't unusual. Tup. Wait. Behind me. Wait. I yelled, turning around to find and point at Lee, who wasn't there. Nice guess. Lee laughed, tapping me on the shoulder from behind. I was so startled my first instinct was to roundhouse kick him in the face. Gah. I'm so sorry, Lee. No, it's all right. He waved me off. I should have expected it, and dodged accordingly. But it's incredible. Why do you seem more excited about me kicking you in the face? I asked. Are you a masochist? Lee tilted his head innocently, making me remember that despite everything, the man was only 11 years old in peacetime. What's a masochist? My eye twitched rampantly. I was not giving this motherfucker the talk. Never mind that talk. Why you know what? Never mind. You don't need to know for now. You okay? I'm fantastic. He yelled enthusiastically, even with the growing bruise on his cheek. I finally snuck up on you, Minato-kun. 300 attempts, and I finally got it. Yashaya. I did it. My training is paying off. I snorted and shook my head, letting myself relax. That you did, buddy. Congratulations. Thank you. This is a really awesome day. I finally did it. We celebrated his successful sneak, went into our cooldowns, and I logged the end of my detention. We both got a hit of that heel pulse, went to the market to buy some shit, and we went to our respective homes. 6 more days to the March Aptitude exam. The training I did, and therefore the boons to my chakra control and reserve increases, was awesome. Thanks to my rapidly increasing levels of chakra control and how well I managed to balance between my increasing reserves and how well I controlled them, I finally managed to cut 1 seal from each academy jutsu. With how much I'd practiced imitating it to supplement my warm-up exercises, needing to use the snake seal for kawarimi and bunshin was finally quickly becoming a thing of the past, which cut the former down to 4 seals and the latter to 2. I cut Ram out of the equation for Henge, also leaving me to 2 on that end. It still wasn't combat practical, because my spooling and compression was somewhat imperfect, and it took 2 seconds to make it work, but it was definitely on its way somewhere damn good. The next seal once I mastered snake, I figured, would have to be either monkey or tiger. The former was because the change in flow of my chakra was such a damn standout that I felt the effects distinctly, especially during the first days when I used it as a sort of training wheels/crutch for my tree walking until I didn't need the seal focus to get moving any longer. That also really put my chakra streaming up another level and helped me increase my speed and the power of my taijutsu, that I felt, for the most part. I could imitate it more easily than the other seals with some time and practice. Offshooting from there, I could even learn to cut out ox and dog using what I'd learned from monkey as a base, not at the same time, mind, but it wouldn't take me more than a few months of concentrated training. The latter had a great argument because of one idea I developed. I wanted to fuck with chakra disruption. I wanted to chain the disruption process so that any layer genjutsu I would happen to fall under would also be broken down, layer by layer by layer. If I could master that, perhaps with the supplement of monkey seals soothing to circumvent any potential internal damage, I could eventually become straight up immune to any genjutsu user I was aware of. I wasn't sure if it would work, but it was surely worth a shot. Of course, the fucking bullshit that came with the likes of Tsukuyumi, Mugen Tsukuyumi, Izanagi, Izanami, and Kotohama Tsukumi was another story entirely, but, you know, lemons and lemonade. I'd find a solution, even if that solution was anything as simple as destroying those stupid fucking eyeballs. Learning Zabuza's famed Kirigakyu no Jutsu and other such sight-obscuring jutsu, perhaps a chakra-based version of Solar Flare, might be a good first step, though. If I could learn to disrupt my chakra and chain that, then I could take the next logical sidestep and learn to heat my chakra by rubbing it and directing the friction to my lungs or wherever else I'd need to vent out some fire, not including my asshole. Or my pisshole. Yeesh. Brain, why do you do this to me? Why the abusive images? Why the abuse? Monkey had a much greater argument, though, because learning it would help me out with some initial steps on learning how to simulate at least 3 other seals, including Tiger. So yeah, lot of important lessons to be learned. I was brimming with ideas, creativity, and passion, building a very good foundation for what would be one dangerous ninja with each day that passed, and I loved every moment of it. I couldn't have been reincarnated to a better world, that was for certain. D-Day, day of the March Aptitude. Easy enough. I sat down, did my writing, and we all moved on to the next stage. My match was against Tenten. Fuck, she was insane. Fast as fuck, movements obviously driven by stuttering but still majorly effective chakra streaming, each blow she gave rapid, driving and precise, as if she was trying to stab me to death with her bare hands. I had to resort to an unusual combination of chakra gripping, which I derived from a month of tree walking, and an ultimately failed attempt at chakra slipping to give her a very difficult time in the fight. She won, putting me in a triangle choke I couldn't get out of, but she walked away with a limp, a black eye, and a cut in her cheek. If it wasn't for the nurse, she'd have been feeling that fight I gave her the next day. Myself, I got bruises on my neck, chest, arms, and generally I was feeling like shit. Thankfully, I got healed up nicely, and we moved on to Bukijutsu. 10 out of 10, all sides. Then, the ninjutsu portion, that was where shit got all fucked up. So, there was a new invigilator. First of all, for every ninjutsu test, there would be 3. It was this one old man, and he had a pasty face and looked at me over his glasses with this hint of a sneer, like I wasn't even worthy to wipe the dirt off his feet. At first I didn't really care about him, I was there to do my job and pass, but yo. It was fucking amazing. The way that old man went up my shit list so fast, he went from couldn't care less to unfucking god, kill on sight as far as he was concerned. I didn't do anything wrong, I was certain of it. I didn't even cut a single seal, doing each one at a good, practice clip, performing each jutsu well, crisp and clean, far less smoke than most of the rest of the class. And then this old fuck failed my henge. My Rock Lee henge, indubitably perfect and practiced multiple times to the point that it was pretty much my preferred form, compared and contrasted with both Lee and Higain sensei to the point of approval from the both of them, and what did he have to say about it? The executions are decent, however, I do not like the speed at which he cast his seals. Too slow, a ninja worth the mark would have done it much faster than this. You must work on escalating the speed, Yakushi. I was fucking seething, because the 2 other invigilators went along with it, criticizing my seal speed. Because bitch, what? I got 2 of those in a second and a half, and substitution in 2 seconds. They never judged me on those even when I was fucking slow with them. I pleaded my case, even showing them that I could cut 1 seal on each jutsu, and while they were impressed, they couldn't count that effort since I'd already shown my hand on the first chance I was given. That old fucker at work again. As a result, I got a 68% on my ninjutsu. Which, considering my high marks on my theory, 89%, my perfect shurikenjutsu score, my 91% taijutsu score, only meant that I got a 69% on my overall score. Because ninjutsu was the most important, and I did not pass it. I failed. I passed everything, and I failed anyway. I failed on a bullshit fucking technicality. I would have not been so upset if, maybe, my work wasn't up to par. If maybe my chakra spasmed at the wrong time and fucked up my jutsu, I'd accept that, too. If I flubbed the bird seal by complete accident or something, sure, I'd be cool. But that fucking raisin failed me because of a fucking rule he made up. And the others fucking went with it. And I thought bullshit refereeing decisions were limited to football. I was so fucking pissed off that when that Hamura, Hadada, Hadamaya, what the fuck ever kid came to laugh at me, I fucking knocked him out and left. I'd never been so mad before, not in either lifetime. It's really motherfucked up. I ranted, flinging a stone at a tree so hard it actually stuck in there. My seal speed was the problem, he said. How? That's fucking bullshit. No one ever judged me on that before. It's like the wrinkly fucker just made up the fucking rule. Was he there because he lost some fucking bet or something? Because that'd explain it. It really was uncool of him, Lee agreed. I, too, failed to understand why he would judge you on that. Perhaps he was operating by wartime rules. Wartime rules, my ass. I growled. I saw him. That fuck had a grudge with me from the first minute. I don't know what the fuck it was, but I saw it in his eyes. He was looking for any fucking excuse. I sat on the ground heavily, taking deep breaths and trying to force myself to calm down. I am sorry, Lee. No, I understand, he said. I understand. It was wrong of him to do it. Maybe we can plead your case with the headmaster. No. I refused, set with a fierce scowl. I'll show that fucker. I'll show them all. They want perfection? They'll fucking get perfection. I'll blaze them so fucking hard they'd have to send a blind examiner to fail me. In fact, they already fucking did, but I'll make him see what I'm made of. I'll spite him. I'll spite them all. I was gonna step it up a massive fucking notch. I wasn't getting fucked like that and letting them get away with it for long. They wanted escalation? They'd get escalation. I'd give them a show they'd never forget when the final exam rolled around. Step 1? Cut the monkey seal. Hannah Hyuga sat in the conference, regarding the headmaster and all the other teachers and proctors with a watchful eye that had never gone away from her ENBU days. Alright, now let us proceed on to the subject of Yakushi Minato, Tomioka Shimura proposed, the rest of the room following along with the 90-year-old former clan head. I must say, you had quite an interesting proposal for how we had to examine him, Hyuga-san. Now the boy utterly abhors me for the judgment I passed on him, and how I cost his exam despite such an outstanding score, especially in comparison to the first 2 aptitude tests. Why did I do that, Hyuga-san? Explain it to me. Yes, Shimura-sama. Hannah stood up from her seat. Yakushi is an interesting case. 2 years ago, he was the 6th best student in his year, only falling behind clan children and Tenten. He was a hard worker, setting very high standards for himself throughout the year and inspiring most others to do the same. Then, due to some unknowable reason, during his 3rd year, after the initial aptitude test, his marks dropped sharply. He simply stopped putting as much effort as he used to, allowing himself to pass with only the bare minimum pass percentage and coasting along on technically satisfying marks. When I first came here during my appointment as a teacher this year, I thought little of him. Yet another child with wasted potential and no drive, one of many. Yet, it seemed, after an initial blip at the beginning of this year, which you'll find in his report, he regained his determination, and in spades. He works harder than any single student of his year, and his only equals in the effort he puts in are Lee Rock, Hyuga Niji, Aburame Tenchi, and Tenten. After the first exam, which I am reasonably confident he will pass, he has a very high chance of making it within an inch of the top 6, jumping a minimum of 7 positions from his current. She paused, letting the committee take her words in. In addition to his effort, he is showing notable aptitude in not only creativity and lateral thinking, but his chakra control and reserves rise side by side with each week that passes. I suspect he is on the level of an average to high-level genin in terms of his chakra reserves alone, and he has a magnificent aptitude for using them with such control that he never comes near the point of chakra exhaustion due to excess wastage. He has a mind for much tighter control of his reserves than an average subject of the inverse chakra theory. In fact, in using and thoroughly mastering the leaf concentration exercise, he not only figured out another application in which he can use his chakra to adhere various, heavier objects to him, but he also reverse-engineered tree walking without a single hint from anyone, simply because to him, it was the next logical step from leaf concentration. If I may quote him, I had to really think about the next step, then I came up with this idea. If we can use chakra to stick things to ourselves, why can't we use chakra to stick ourselves to other things? The room erupted into whispers and odd sounds. In addition, Hannah spoke over the noise, attracting attention and a surprised comment of "There's more?" from none other than Orochimaru's contact, Toji Mizuki, the real reason for her retirement. In addition, if you may look at his records, he is the most frequent visitor of the library this year. And while you'll notice that he has had several weeks of detention this semester, he willingly put himself in that position in order to earn extra time to train and receive training tips from me. His training has served him very well so far. Oh man, Yumino Irika covered his mouth in obvious amazement. What a resourceful student he is. The library and detention systems, unknown to every child that did not ask, actually served additional purpose in that they tested the child's level of resourcefulness over the year. There was much additional information about the world to be found in the library that simply wasn't taught in the classrooms due to time constraints, some of which would serve the students well in finding an idea of what they would want their specialties to be in the future, and what the adults felt would suit them best. The teachers only advised them twice a year to visit the library, but did not actively encourage the students. That was left to their own initiative. Minato Yakushi was by far the most frequent visitor of his generation. The time he logged in outweighed only by Orochimaru and Kakashi Hatake, the latter of whom had used that key information, among other circumstances, to graduate very quickly and form the foundation that would help him ascend all the ranks but Kage by the delicate age of 10. Detention tested their patience, discipline, and whether or not they were willing or even had the mind to turn those bad circumstances to their advantage. Those were good traits for any shinobi to have, and thus whoever took advantage of that system to do anything ranging from simple studying to training to, like Minato, asking Hana for extra advice, would earn bonus points in their final exam resourcefulness percentages. Minato, at the moment, was simply unmatched on that mark on her advice. He'd not shared that information with anyone else. After all, while Konoha did value its comrades greatly, it also valued their initiative and creativity to help them solve a variety of problems, and what good was a shinobi told to their face that tools were there to use but did not use them? Man, he's gonna be a shoo-in for graduation if he passes the first exam, Toji noted. He's a sharp one, it seems, indeed. At this point, he has almost mastered tree walking, now able to walk, if only quickly, and from what I've deduced, he practiced it for a cumulative total of about 65 to 70 hours. Gasps erupted through the room. That's insane! Ruko Kurama gaped. That's almost 3 days. He's gotten that good with it in such a short time on top of everything else? You see now why he has my attention, Hagane nodded. My intention, Shimura-sama, everyone, is to hold him to very high standards, and provoke him into giving his best and far more besides. His potential grows with each day, as does his ability. With his creativity, chakra control, and the sheer work he puts in to maintain both as well as his physicality, his growth, should it continue this way for half a decade, will make a notable shinobi out of him, especially with direction from an experienced chunin or jounin. I expect that during his teenage years, he might well reach B rank, A at the highest, with the potential to cross the threshold to S in his adult years. She paused, letting her words sink in. Not only that, but speaking from experience, there is a possibility that someday, he may be asked to join the ranks of A and BU, most likely before he turns 16. Hana paused, receiving an influx of memories. She held a hand up to give herself time to assimilate them properly, and she cracked a small smile at the result. A Kage bunch and I had trailing him to observe his reactions has confirmed my theory. He is very angry, and I apologize for that, Shimura-sama, but he is also even more determined to work as hard as possible to pass the first exam with little more than as high a mark as he can get. I see, the former Shimura clan head nodded after another moment of awe from the committee. Interesting. Very interesting. Let us. Is this why you used your sake on him, then? Suzume inquired. Almost everyone in the room suppressed a sigh. They'd long been over that particular topic. Hana had received her fine and given her word that she'd make it up to the boy, but the uptight flower-pressing teacher was bringing that particular annoying subject up for the third time, only to get the same answer every time. Yes, Hana admitted bluntly, before anyone else could decide to give her flack and cause her to give them flack, which would devolve to a noise of utter nonsense. And you? I wish to test his resolve, Hana interrupted firmly, looking her in the eye, daring her to interrupt. As you know, a Hyuga that examined him discovered that his spiritual energy is very strong. Not strong for his age, or developing very well, but simply very strong. When I asked her how the balances were between his yin and yang alignment, she could not give me a concrete answer due to the incident that necessitated her examination. As we all know, she will be arriving here with a team during April, before the first exam, in order to inspect the health of each student in our year and ensure we do not have another potential chakra-stunted student. And when she does, I expect that, due to his training as of late, she will judge his yin-yang ratio to be closer to 65 to 35, with the potential to train it to be very close to 50 to 50 by his adult years. Everyone froze at that comment. To achieve such a close balance in their physical-spiritual energy spoke of nothing but a shinobi of immense quality, no matter the rank they were adjudged to be. Every shinobi had various balances to their yin-yang ratio that determined the potential of their specialties and abilities. The knowledge was not refined and definitive as there were outliers and complications that defied convention, but the general consensus was that as thus, the closer one was to yin, the sharper their mind and the better their yin-related abilities genjutsu, Iri ninjutsu, Nara hijitsu, and Yamanaka hijitsu, among others. Strengthened spiritual ability gave them means to master their chakra control much more easily, diving into those specific abilities more easily than most. While it did come at a measure of cost to their physical abilities, it did not necessarily mean that that would become their weakest point, only that they had to work harder than most to overcome that skew in their balance. Those who could not but were determined anyway, would usually simply find workarounds to those issues, which complemented their strengths and propped up their weaknesses to points where the enemy could not properly leverage them against said shinobi. Notable examples were any Nara that managed to learn the shadow strangling technique and other similarly advanced techniques. Due to that, they had to undergo intensive, specialized physical training and conditioning, as well as meditation within shadows to connect more closely to them and find ways to better manipulate them. The founder of the clan, Naro Shikatsu, was said to have trained himself so strongly that his shadows were a real physical threat, where he was able to use the likes of shadow kunai, shadow spikes, and though it remained an unconfirmed rumor, an actual deer head made purely of shadow that he used to skewer his enemies. No Nara had managed to replicate those feats to this day, though some had certainly come close. Others were Tsunade Senju, who, instead of resorting to intense physical exercise, only did enough physical exercise to supplement her control levels, which she used to create her super strength techniques, and the Kurama clan, who had a skewed yin-yang alignment in favor of the latter, giving them notable prowess in genjutsu, but sometimes produced shinobi with a near-perfect balance by default, which allowed their own genjutsu to blatantly affect reality. The closer one was to yang, instead, the stronger their physicality. The Inuzuka clan was one such example, with their bodies adapted for ferocious strength and speed-based feats, able to spin at extraordinary speeds without losing themselves to dizziness, and even adjusting their transformations to give them dog or wolf-like states, and achieving even more with their Niken partners. Another was the Akimichi clan, who mixed their raw power with an odd form of chakra control that remained an exclusive secret of their clan, that allowed them to extensively adjust their bodies for their most famous jutsu. All those people had balances much closer to 70 to 30, or 30 to 70, sometimes even 80 to 20 and 20 hours 80 minutes, and Rock Lee, due to his defect, would likely be one of the only shinobi ever to have a ratio of outright 10 hours 90 minutes, for all the resultant strengths and shortcomings that would bring him as a result. On the other hand, there were exceptional examples that managed to achieve a much closer balance to 60:40, or even up to 50:50. The Uchiha and Hyuga were two such examples, the latter able to manipulate their balance in instants by using the Sharingan to study the ways techniques were executed, which allowed them to copy ninjutsu as long as the shape manipulation was not too complex or sealless, such as the Rasengan, as well as various taijutsu forms. It was said that it wasn't impossible that the Uchiha could copy the Hijutsu of the Nara, Akimichi, Hyuga, Inuzuka and Yamanaka clans, but none had ever dared test that theory. Not only would there be the risk of cost to their physical prowess if they tried the likes of the Akimichi and Inuzuka Hijutsu, but there was also the risk of severe downturn of political relations between the Uchiha and the other aforementioned clans, and it was bad enough as it was before the Uchiha massacre. The Hyuga, on the other hand, had very strong in chakra, which allowed them to use their extraordinary Byakugan and also process all the information given from those eyes with some measure of ease. The Hyuga were intelligent enough to supplement that strength with their physical prowess and chakra manipulation abilities, which made them one of the most feared clans in battle. In Hana's opinion, they had the potential to go to even greater heights, but it was not her place to express such an opinion, nor would they take any such comments lying down, content to coast by on their complacency. It worked for them so far, as they were indeed one of Konoha's noble clans, and currently its strongest clan to boot. Maki Hyuga was an outlier, sadly, and not a commonality. The real monsters were the ones that came within a modicum of the long-desired 50:50 balance. Not only was that tremendously difficult to achieve, demanding extensive physical and mental exercise, but anyone that played into the strength such a balance would give them would truly become utter monsters, tight chakra control, volume, and quality balanced out by immense physical prowess. In Konoha alone, such balances were achieved by the likes of Senju Hashirama, Uchiha Madara, Uchiha Kagami, Uchiha Itachi, Hatake Sakumo, Hatake Kakashi, Namikaze Minato, Uzumaki Mito, Uzumaki Kushina, and Sarutobi Hiruzen in his prime years. A ninja that strengthened his mind at the same level as his body would grow to be an insane threat on the battlefield, one not many would love to face. To say that a known former ANBU making such a claim of a child of no known pedigree was a massive fucking statement was in and of itself a massive fucking understatement. Are you serious? Suzum gaped. Absolutely. As such, Hana continued, I decided to test his resolve with only a 20th of my sake. He could not resist it, of course, but to this day he still approaches me for training tips. He has the resilience to shake off that kind of trauma, to willingly interact with the same person that frightened him as much as I did, and used me to earn him self-detention and extra training. If you still feel the need to question his mental strength despite the facts laid out before you, then I have to question why you're even here. Suzum's protests died a pitiful death. Holy crap, Toji gaped. Konoha's making another monster. Is there something in the water some of us didn't get? Very good points, Hagane-san, Shimura nodded. Keep us apprised on his progress. Such talent cannot be allowed to go to waste any longer. I will make a proposal to the Hokage to allow you to pass on genin-level training to the child from the month of June onwards. Of course, Shimura-sama, Hana nodded, and sat down. The committee continued its discussion, branching onto other topics, especially the contents of the upcoming first exam. Many teachers went home with a lot on their mind, and Minato would be overcome with the desperate, frustrating question of fucking why he was suddenly overcome with a sudden one-man epidemic of sneezes. Relevant interlude. Hana Hagane. April 15th. Hana finished her morning ablutions and preparations, checking for any flaws in her mirror one last time. Her raven hair was in satisfactory condition, the wavy bob framing her angular features to her standards. Her stylized ANBU-derived forest green suit was draped by an open Chunin flak jacket instead of her preferred ANBU armor, but she made it work. The ankle bandages were properly wrapped on her ankles. Rather than shinobi sandals like most, she chose to wear light boots in order to cover her reason for retirement. She had a prosthetic foot. She could see her eyes churning with the memory of her last ANBU mission. A routine reconnoiter mission around the border of the Land of Fire and Land of Hot Springs, where there were rumblings of some sort of cult. It had turned into a complete nightmare, as it turned out that the cult was actually a menagerie of some of the former shinobi of what was once Hyuga, who'd started a cult that gave them power derived from suffering. They'd taken an entire town, tortured the innocent people in it to please their so-called god, and rooted the ANBU out, forcing them into a combat situation. Hana had been forced to take on the leader, Haiden, alongside Kodo Inuzuka. She did not consider it a victory. Yes, the cult was repressed. Yes, the cult was scattered, most of its believers captured or killed. Yes, the town had been saved, even when there was practically nothing left to save. But Haiden had cost her the life of Kodo on her watch, as well as her leg with that strange technique. After he'd somehow assimilated her blood and initiated his technique, she shot out a high-pressure jet of water, severing his leg and disrupting the seal at his feet, but not before mangling her own leg as a result. Half of the squadron had died to them, and Haiden had somehow escaped, making it into the bingo books as former Yugakure's first S-rank shinobi. He'd never been seen since, and so, according to her records, the injury effectively ended her career as ANBU, having been deemed physically unable to fully maintain the standard that resulted in her turnout of 47 C ranks, 54 B ranks, 39 A ranks, and 4 S rank missions. She voluntarily demoted to Chunin, taking less risky missions to earn her keep, but she was not beyond kicking the asses of bandits every now and then. Then, on eventual advice of Maki Hyuga, she retired from active duty, deciding to pass a modicum of her hard-earned skills on to the next generation. She could not be a Chunin sensei, therefore the logical decision was to become an academy sensei instead. Not only would her presence raise the standards of each class she taught and the standards of each teacher, it would also serve as an unexpected deterrence to any infiltrators in case the worst happened. There was one particular class year with particularly important children clan heirs, the last Uchiha, and the Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko, and while she would not teach them, her presence served as an assurance and deterrent. Everyone knew she was ANBU because ANBU allowed everyone to know. What they did not know was that she was not retired. The investigation into Toji Mizuki bore fruit, having been looked into by a detachment of Root, and through Operative Ian, Danzo's Black Ops org uncovered a chance encounter between him and S-class rogue ninja, Orochimaru. Toji had been seduced by the man's power and came to the point of not only becoming a low-level contact for him, but he also betrayed his teammates in that fateful mission. SOP would have determined his death from that moment, but Danzo, and thus Hiruzen, had different plans. He was only of a low level, and perhaps because Orochimaru knew they knew, it remained so, but he was a potential key element to unraveling the path to the rogue ninja's end. Therefore, his psych evaluations came clear. Therefore, Hana was retired and eventually assigned to the academy. Outside of his poorly hidden hatred of Uzumaki Naruto, Toji was an exemplary teacher, drawing from years of field experience to paint a more comprehensive picture of the life of a shinobi, and supplementing Irika's lectures with fun diversions and tips. He masterfully presented a light-hearted, jocular nature to his students and colleagues, hiding the pain like everyone else, and hiding his disdain for them, not only for their perceived weaknesses, but for allowing the Jinchuriki to come as far as he had in his education, which, worryingly, was not that far, something she'd ensured to report. Despite that he disliked his colleagues and job, he maintained his role well, forcing patience on himself, waiting for an opening that would allow him to eventually execute his ultimate plan, the Scroll of Seals. A droll motivation for a droll ninja. All in all, Toji had the makings of a traitor that would definitely be put down at some point in the next 24 months, once that connection became irrelevant, and he actually moved for the scroll. It was routine. Almost boring, even apprehending Mizuki would present no challenge, even with her leg. And then Minato Yakushi came in. The boy was a walking pile of perplexing contrasts. Nothing, absolutely nothing in her opinion suggested he was a spy, potential traitor, or emotionally imbalanced as any child would be. There were files on him since the day of his birth, born and raised in the Konoha orphanage, which the matron of said orphanage, herself a former shinobi, attested to with a fond smile, started in the general education at the age of 4 and moved on to the shinobi academy when he was 8. On the contrary, he stood out far more than any would like to. As an orphan that was well provided for, nothing in his past suggested that he would have any sort of reason to hate Konoha or betray it, and he was completely stable. As if he was an adult, and had found his footing in the world. Why train like this? Hana asked him once, around the first month after he'd re-unlocked his chakra. Why are you so determined now? He seemed surprised at the question, and genuinely had to think about it for a second. Don't I have to? He asked, eventually. Doesn't everyone? Not everyone, she shook her head. There are still contingencies in place for if people cannot pass the academy exam. He nodded, rolling that thought over in his head. I see. And how long does it take before those contingencies assimilate the failed student into a normal life? It depends on them. So years? She thought over her answer, but she gave nothing away on her face. Perhaps, so I'll keep at it. It's easier to set goals as a shinobi. Hana decided not to tell him that it was easier than he thought it was to be integrated into the civilian life, that not all shinobi saw their paths in the battlefield. She did not, however, she did not want to spoil what she saw in him. And what is your goal? To be better. Everyone serves Konoha in their own ways, but only shinobi truly determine its tone, its atmosphere, its operational capacity. I just don't want to be swept away in the flow of the river. I want to help. What kind of job would you take to that end? Chunin-sensei, Jonin-sensei preferably. But not to any specific team. Why? He looked at her. I figured out tree walking from nothing. It's not so extraordinarily difficult to execute, only requires training and commitment. Why weren't we taught this? It's not in your syllabus. Why? Is it not an essential movement skill for a shinobi? The higher our chakra control, the better the foundation we have when we set out to be ninja, when we go out on missions that could determine the fate of our clients, our team, even our village. So why? She decided to present a vulnerable front to him and let herself sigh. You have a point, though not everyone finds chakra control as easy to improve as you do. Hence he interrupted, and I apologize for speaking over you, sensei, but hence, item concentration. He picked up his kunai, balancing it almost perfectly still on a finger with nothing but his palm and a precise application of chakra. Hana almost blinked, analyzing that application while keeping her eye on him. She could think of at least 5 ways to use the kunai or any other item from that position to kill an opponent, so something for her to practice later. She might even find benefits relevant to her ultimate technique, one that only one shinobi had ever mastered. They called him Mu, the Null Man. From what I can see, it builds a good foundation for tree walking, especially if I try it around my legs and feet. It forces me to use more chakra to keep the item balanced or stuck to me, which builds the strength of my tenketsu and chakra coils. I admit, going to tree walking from there is a significant step, but it's better tea than nothing. He gestured helplessly. What are we learning? Why so little? Because you're not ready, she said firmly. None of you are. I understand your protests, but yours is not to fight. Not yet. There's no war. She paused. You should be happy. You're being given a childhood. He considered it. You have a point, he admitted, much to her surprise. Her eyes turned to him, a conflicted expression marred his features. The boy knew nothing of war, but it seemed he knew enough. Yeah. You have a point. We will, someday. It's inevitable, but hopefully it won't be anytime soon. Hopefully. She nodded. Go make some friends. I have friends. Rock Lee does not count for a plural figure, Yakushi. He's loud enough to, the boy muttered, and her lip twitched in amusement. Make more friends, Yakushi. You may be training to become one of us, but you're human all the same. No matter how much you lie to yourself. He had that chance. He had the chance not to believe in that lie. He could become powerful, and he could care, too. He needed something to care about, otherwise he'd collapse under the weight of the pressure he'd put on himself. Like Orochimaru. Like her. Like so many others in her line of work. Sure. Can I ask for one thing in return? This brat. Her eyes flickered towards his. Which would be, I understand why you think we're not ready, he nodded. I get it. But I want to be better. Graduation only means I have the potential to be a ninja. I would like to work, and work, and work, that I not only have the potential, but I will be ready to live up to it. His eyes glimmered in determination. Everything I've read about our history points to one thing: this world is cyclical. It is mired in relentless, endless conflict. At this point, it's simply irrelevant who starts it, the result is always the same. Someone is killed, begetting hatred in those left behind, who express that hate through murder, who will murder elsewhere, begetting hatred in those left behind, who start the cycle again. Every single time. And that we have had 3 major wars in less than 80 years alone, to say nothing of the countless minor conflicts we know of and don't know of. Is it right to live like this? Her eyes widened. This boy, I cannot say he is a genius, but he certainly thinks like one. Handling him, if he's not a spy, and simply has a different way of thinking, then he must be handled with the utmost care. She seemed suddenly relieved that he was so receptive of the idea of making friends, and she understood that she had to help foster his loyalty to Konoha to get him to see the village as his home, and a haven for himself and his friends. To that end, all she had to do was give him what he wanted. He didn't want power. He wanted to be better. He had no childish insecurities, no apparent need for companionship, though he gladly participated, sometimes when prompted, sometimes without being prompted. He was becoming closer with Lee every day, despite that he found the other boy an odd duck, nothing but the almost single-minded focus on becoming better. Not stronger, that was a byproduct in his eyes, better. He was driven to understand his chakra, how it worked, why it worked the way it did, to assimilate the way he used it to be so natural that he wouldn't need hand seals to execute his jutsu. Some would say that the last shinobi with this kind of obsession was Orochimaru, but they would be wrong. Everything Orochimaru did stemmed from his fear of death. He yearned to master all techniques because they would give him every pathway possible to survive. He yearned for, if the rumors were correct, the Sharingan, because the eyes would give him the power he'd need to survive. He experimented on children with Mokutan, completely unauthorized, because he wanted to find a way to assimilate the cells of Hashirama Senju within his body in order to inherit his longevity. The deaths of his parents had haunted him far more than Konoha had anticipated, and no one, not even the third Hokage himself, had anticipated his treachery, and the Hokage had foolishly let him go. It was an act that would have cost him his tenure as Hokage if not for his long service and the fact that there were no ready successors, and the ones that were committed seppuku, betrayed the village, did not want the job, were not even remotely ready for the job, had health issues that made it impossible to keep the job for any notable amount of time, and betrayed the village anyway, or died. It was impossible to exploit that weakness, simply because he was that strong, and where he was not, he was that good at retreating. That was Orochimaru. Yakushi was different. He was not a prodigy, not even close, but he was smart and driven. Why his gates closed was still a mystery to her and Maki, but that incident seemed to have lit a fire under him. He was finally beginning to show the drive in him everyone had seen in him over a year ago that gave clan children a run for their money, only this time, he was even smarter about it. His focus, unlike so many children, was on finding ways to improve his chakra control in order to harness its abilities to the fullest with the little he had. Instead of thinking about various new cool techniques they could assimilate into their repertoire, his mindset was on draining every drop of quality he could think of from what he already knew and using that to find new paths to improvement. Others wanted the width of an ocean and would consequently have only the depth of a puddle. Minato focused on having the depth of a river, a dam, a lake, an ocean, regardless of his width. Because he understood that the deeper his level of skill, the better a shinobi he would be. Others always thought a wider level of skill would make them better shinobi, and they were always wrong, like Orochimaru. S rank he may be, but there was a reason he ran away from Hiruzen Sarutobi instead of killing him on the spot. How many his age could think of something like that? No, Minato Yakushi had potential. Far too much potential to leave alone like that. They said the likes of Neji Hyuga and Sasuke Uchiha were prodigies. In her opinion, and that of many other shinobi of her level, they were talented, but they did not live up to that hype. Uchiha Itachi was a prodigy. Hatake Kakashi and Sakuma were both prodigies. Madogai was a prodigy at least, in taijutsu. Namikaze Minato was a prodigy. Orochimaru was a prodigy. Sarutobi Hiruzen, Senju Hashirama and Tobirama, Uchiha Madara, Uchiha Kagami and Azuna, Nara Shikatsu, Senju Tsunade, those people were prodigies. The pair did not have the level of hype the rest had at their age. They were talented, but utterly uncreative, burdened by their mental weaknesses to the point of a denigration to their own skills. Tenten, if she worked on truly mastering her talent, could be a bigger prodigy than the both of them as they were and would be in the future. Were Konoha's therapeutic measures so lacking for civilians of their age? Or was it simply that they were indeed that bullheaded? If, perhaps, they could take Yakushi's approach to work and how they thought on that work, then they would definitely become real prodigies in her eyes. You want peace? She asked him. Is it possible? No. Then I want to help Konoha become even more of a deterrent. To that end, I must become a better ninja. To that end, everyone here can become a better ninja. Maybe someday, I can have the experience to figure it out to show the rest of us how. But for me to do that, he raised a fist at nothing, channeling visible chakra to it. I have to figure out what I'm doing and how to do it better. So, I just have to train, harder and harder, and become a better ninja. A good ambition, she nodded. See that it does not overcome you. Do you understand? Yes, sensei. His agreement was genuine, with no hints of nervousness. Do you understand that there may be an eventual possibility that some would like to keep your ambitions in check, or even hinder it outright? Yes. No one man should have unlimited power. Hokage-sama does not, and neither does our daimyo. Neither should I. And for those who may try to hinder you, I don't know. Maybe I should try to figure out why they have that interest, and what I can say to them to convince them otherwise, or see where and why I'm wrong and what mistake I'm making. Why do you see yourself making mistakes? A goal like yours doesn't call for room for mistakes. Minato gave her a raised eyebrow. Because I'm not stupid enough to think I can't make mistakes. Everyone does. That includes me. He shrugged. All that we really can do is figure out what they are and try to not make them again. That's life, right? And if you become crippled? He blinked. It seemed he never entertained that possibility. In all fairness, no one really did until it happened to them. I don't know. Maybe I'll just become an academy sensei. I'll see. I see. Of all the students in his year, he had among the more interesting expression of his 3 chakra classifications. His chakra affinity remained unknown, and thus untrained until he began his work on it. His yin-yang ratio was becoming increasingly well-balanced for his age, the strength of his body intertwining well with the strength of his mind, his creativity, talent for connecting dots and unconventional thinking. His chakra quality, the depth and potency of his reserves, was his weakest point, most likely hovering between the highest level an average academy student could achieve D class and a low genin level, C class, low. But, as affinities could be added and improved on, as could the yin-yang ratio could be adjusted, his chakra quality, too, could undergo even more improvement than it already had. He made massive strides over the past 3.5 months, and so if anyone could reach higher levels, it would be him. Perhaps he could reach her and surpass her someday, and faster than she could estimate of him. The only question was whether or not he could be trusted to be allowed to, and what level he could reach. She watched as he laughed with genuine, full joy as he replicated the exercises she had shown him successfully, finally severing a seal properly as he used kawarimi and chained it with henja of her with greater rapidity than most, if not all academy-level students. Rock Lee and Tenten applauded him, and they shared a moment of camaraderie before going back to their warm-ups. It was well executed, but too slow, too methodical. He would need to be used to the way repetition of the technique and chaining one technique with another would strain his tenketsu, which meant that she would have to take a more active hand in his training for the week. She was beginning to see what his vision would be for the final exam, based on his determination to master the Academy 3. She was interested. It would be a good achievement for a boy of his level. Hana was finally beginning to be inclined to trust him. Somewhat. But she would have no problem with taking appropriate measures if he disappointed the modicum of trust she would show him. Her kage bunshin dispelled, and she assimilated its memories. She then turned her attention to the ANBU watching her from 15 meters away, though she had another clone watching the rogue Chunin. She made signals that he would see from that distance. Clone dispelled one clone watching nothing unusual. Target moved from home destination Academy. No contact with Purple Snake. No contact with Snake Associates. No dead drops detected. Will inform Dragon of any change in circumstance today. Acknowledge. The ANBU signaled back and shunshined away. Hana executed hand seals of her own. Snake. Horse. Hare. Dog. Hana's chakra rippled outwards, a shroud of ocean blue chakra covering her obscure body that, too, faded into obscurity, deflecting the sunlight around her body using the moisture in the air. No one would see her, even when she was in front of them except the Hyuga, Uchiha, and perhaps the Aburame and Inuzuka. The jutsu had 8 hand seals, and she was on a decent clip in going towards mastering it. When she truly mastered it, not even they would see her, and she would truly be invisible. Mujin Meisai, she was gone. April 14th, Konoha, Tiger Borax Dog. Kawarimi no Jutsu, faster. Tiger Borax Dog dash. Kawarimi no Jutsu, again. Tiger Borax Dog. Kawarimi no Jutsu, again. Tiger Borax Dog. Kawarimi no Jutsu, better than last week. How much remaining? 3/4, I think. I'd done it 7 times so far. A pause, a probe of her chakra, warmer than the first day. Good. Your senses are improving quickly. Underestimating your reserve size is good practice. Now, use all the seals. Tiger Borax Dog Snake. Kawarimi no Jutsu, again. Tiger Borax Dog Snake. Kawarimi no Jutsu, again. Tiger Borax Dog Snake. Kawarimi no Jutsu. How much chakra, HM? I'd say about 2/3, closer to a half or 3/4, the latter. Improve. For the rest of the week, every single time we're here, every second you can spare, I want you to study the snake seal and the monkey seal. I want you to imitate its effects exactly in 2 weeks from today, and have it combat ready within 2 months. Understood, Hagane Sensei. Now 2 bunshin. Project in front. 1 seal. Got it, Tiger. Bunshin no Jutsu, focus. 1 seal. Project left. Again, Tiger. Bunshin no Jutsu, that one lacks substance, Yakushi. Not enough heat. Dismiss. Again. 1 seal. Project left and right, Tiger. Bunshin no Jutsu, improve. Maintain your concentration. Do not dismiss. Again. 1 seal. 2 clones. Front and back summon, Tiger. Bunshin no Jutsu, dismiss. Again. Front, Tiger. Bunshin no Jutsu, dismiss. 4 clones, 4 sides, Tiger. Bunshin no Jutsu, dismiss. Again. 4 sides, Tiger. Bunshin no Jutsu, left does not have substance. Dismiss. 4 again, 4 sides, Tiger. Bunshin no Jutsu, dismiss. I dispersed the clones with a somewhat relieved sigh. I wasn't really tired, but I was feeling a weird kind of burn in my body, similar but completely unrelated to my muscles. Probably my chakra coils, maybe my tenketsu. I've never used my chakra to execute techniques in such quick succession before. It's good training. Remaining? Half, likely less. Good. Save it for your evening studies. Warm down, sit, meditate, regain what you can. 30 minutes. Understood, Hagane Sensei. I'll be back. I almost snorted. All she needed was a pair of sunglasses and an Austrian accent. Sure, she'd come off as more of an alien that somehow inexplicably crossed universes and became a Terminator. But when I thought about it, she'd definitely make a decent Skynet weapon. With a quiet shunshin, she was gone. Hana Hagane was a slave driver, and I was loving it. Maybe I was starting to become as nuts as everyone in this world was. But sure, she had a point, and it was good that she was pushing me. After all, I had a lot of things to work on. She did ask what I wanted, and while I did say it in a bit of anger, I had a set goal for the academy graduation exam and only 7 months to accomplish it. Through the both of us, I would do it, and by God I would pull the fuck through by hook or by crook. My goal? I wanted to cut all the seals from all the Academy 3 by the beginning of November. The initial problem I came across was that, well, in order to do that, I had to master every hand seal. That kind of shit, if Hana was right, took years, about 3 minimum, excluding mission time less if you were a prodigy. I was not, and while she knew I was good, she also knew better than thinking I was. Therefore, to do it in a year was impossible. I had about 6 years before Akatsuki would start moving more actively. My long-term goal was not only to try my hardest to reach something close to S rank in that time, but to also give the rookie 12 the keys to reaching those levels themselves, especially Naruto and Sasuke. The way they trained in canon, it was a fucking waste, and it pissed me off. More so now that I was beginning to see how quickly the fruits of my training were showing, and in consideration of how, after 3 years, Naruto took a few months to go from Chunin level to outright A/S rank through shadow clone training. I would fix that, because the shinobi world would not be saved by 1 or 2 people helped by a dead sage. I was not about to rely on that Deus Ex Machina bullshit, so I had to focus on my short-term goals, build my foundation, and go from there. Seal severance was one such key, and a very difficult one. Hana-sensei was kind and did point out another method of seal severance that was, in fact, available for my usage and would make my goal much easier to accomplish. Repetition. It wouldn't help me dismiss the need for using the seals on any other jutsu that I hadn't quite mastered yet, but it would help me understand how my chakra moved when I specifically chained those seals for the jutsu, and with that understanding, I could simulate its movements, facilitating my mastery of it. With that, I could use them seamlessly. It reminded me of a conversation a version of Naruto had with a version of Madara Uchiha. Those methods were made in mind to create good ninjas faster, to supply the war effort, he once said. My method makes better ones, but it also takes time and patience. They're both equally valid, and for different reasons. That was a paraphrase, of course. It had been quite some time since I'd read Kagasio's Echoes. I had to find the balance between quality training and quantity-like training. To use the method of mastery to accelerate my development, while using the method of accelerated development to better develop my mastery. It would be a damn woozy, and with that, I would give that old fart a practical final he'd never forget. Since my failed aptitude test, Hagane had gone even harder on me, taking a more active role in my detention training sessions, actually overseeing my training herself instead of letting Lee and I have at it. We did still do that, of course, but she also wanted me to execute each jutsu a minimum of 15 times a day during class, and an additional 10 times during my detention training. With each day, I would practice sealing monkey, ram or snake, obviously not chaining them, no matter the environment I was. Class theory? Do it. Class practicals? Do it. Running? Do it. Relaxing at home? Do it. Do not do it on Sundays after your hour. Taijutsu? You're not that good yet. I wasn't sure whether to be semi-grateful or offended, but I decided to go with the latter. 1 fuck you and 8 weeks of detention arrangement later, all parties were satisfied. Mark it? I personally don't care, but if you're feeling suicidal, go for it. Yeah, so obviously I did not. But that was a good thing to have in mind. My chakra control was at a level I was beginning to feel was satisfactory enough to begin really working on severing the seals I already had on a permanent level. As of 2 days ago, due to anger-driven exercise, I could finally walk up and down a tree, perfectly horizontally. It was still massively, ridiculously strenuous in exercise, and I could only keep it up for 1.5 minutes with fast walking, and hanging upside down on a branch was a bit less problematic, but it was still an achievement I'd made. So I was making very good progress with monkey and snake. Ram, I'd already basically mastered. It required me to pay a lot of attention to my chakra. Monkey asked the same thing of me, and by extension all of them did, but I had to feel out how my chakra reacted when I initiated either seal and thus imitate it with my will alone. I had to get specific, concentrate, burst open and mix. I was making decent progress, but it wasn't perfect yet. Snake was easier, but it wasn't perfect, which was why Hana wanted me to keep repeating the jutsu. The more I did it, the more instinctive it would become for me to suppress my need to use hand seals for either one. It was all good. At the rate I was going, I'd definitely get it done by the end of the month. End of April. The atmosphere in class was a bit different. It brimmed with nervous tension, helped by Hana's even more foreboding than usual air. Yumino Irika's peppy stance did help it out a little, at least, as little as trying to stop a flood with water. An unknown Hyuga had inspected all of us thoroughly from his corner of the classroom, making sure we did not go against our instructions of bringing nothing but the clothes on our backs to the classroom. Our desks had none of our writing equipment. Instead, they had supplied pencils, rulers and erasers, all lying next to fairly thick sheafs of paper that were turned upside down. No one dared touch them after Hana's stern instruction not to. Hello, everyone, Irika Yumino greeted us. My name is Yumino Irika. You are all familiar with your sensei, Hagane Hana, and with us today is Hyuga Tomi.